Yeah.
Haven't been married as long as you.
All right, so I'm trying to decide if I'm gonna stay. Should I stay or should I go? You know, Mr. What was that?
Stay or run.
Who was the, who sang that song? Should I stay or should I go down?
Put your money.
Oh, yeah.
Should I
yeah,
stay or
kind
should I
of,
go
yeah.
down?
That was a kind of a comedian thing. God, it's right there, you get it now.
I know, it's like, was it
Don't
me?
all be singing that the rest of the night.
Oh, Jimmy Durante.
No.
Yeah, Durante did that.
Yeah.
Originally a Durante, Jimmy Durante, skit.
Okay.
Huh.
That's where that stay and go came from.
Here we are all year.
Well,
Told ya.
It's okay, baby.
We don't know. Only Cameron knows.
Okay.
So we're assuming
But
not
they reused
until he
it in
walks
the
in.
movie Splash.
I kind of have a feeling not.
Tom
If
Hanks and
Cameron-
Tom Hanks
So
and-
those chairs are
Yeah,
for the
well,
five
she
of
was
you.
watching it on TV.
Those are for the five of you.
And she was.
Because I was like, say he's coming, I don't know what we're gonna do.
And that's
Okay.
probably later version of Should I Stay or Go?
okay.
Oh, I have just one of them. Too bad I couldn't remember. You know, that's in the way of real intelligence.
Most of the time, you know, it's the game, I know what you can like.
It's all still in the office.
It isn't there.
Okay. I did put in the cloud just today, the Springdale one.
Yeah, I got theirs,
Okay.
but that's the application form.
Right, right, true. That's, hey, I have yours in the office that I played with, but I haven't, okay, finished.
Okay.
She just gave it to me yesterday.
I copied that.
Sure.
And I
Yes.
also did one
Yes.
for us, so I'll leave you
Okay,
that one.
sounds good, yep.
I'm just kind of seeing what we need.
And was home occupation in the regular meeting or just the work meeting? It's only in the work meeting, right? I haven't even looked at the agenda.
I think it was, the last thing I remember is that we're gonna give it to you and you decide what you were wanting, I think. I don't know. I'll have to go back to the minutes.
I didn't know you were having this meeting about this until the other day. I thought we had a meeting about this when we had the marathon. Didn't you have a meeting then about input about the town planning and zoning then? Wasn't there a meeting last week?
No, what that was the open house for the
through their application back here,
Yeah.
it really, ours and theirs are so similar.
Yeah.
You know, they just really have things kind of condensed, you know. But yeah, and so I will try really hard within like a week to, get it edited and maybe, that they strike it with the strike up,
Legal.
stuff and see and
Legal.
go from there.
What you think? Okay.
Sounds good.
You haven't tried it, it's gonna be dried out.
George is eating the cheese.
Okay. How are you?
I'm trying to stop eating my fat soys,
Oh.
so I haven't done it.
Okay.
I know you were here, I thought you were containers.
Oh, you can throw them away. They're just Tupperware. They're that throwaway
I
stuff.
haven't seen you in a long time.
I see how they're wandering around once in a while, but that's all.
You here?
You're never in there doing anything, you're leaving your wife to work.
Hey, you get a good woman, why, that's a good one.
Well, you got a point.
Don't wanna get her one. Slow her down.
How are you guys doing?
Oh, good for now.
That looks nice.
Look up on Amazon.
You're gonna have to get a couple, 3, 4 more helpers.
And there's,
Dan, if you know someone, you send them down.
and it also has
So if I know someone, I'll keep them. Trying to find somebody is tough. That's where it's at.
That damn Trump got rid of all those damn unemployment, you know, well, who the hell we got to pick from?
Okay.
I'm gonna have to take a bus and go to Mexico, I guess.
So,
Oh,
Well, you know,
all right, thanks.
we have to hire like 5 people to open the damn doors.
Jack,
Get it, you know, running.
So,
Yeah.
You know, and then so, they won't work 7 days a week.
oh, hell no. So
So
you
you
gotta
gotta
have,
so you gotta hire someone, so you gotta have a,
Did you get your health plans? Did you get the plans?
and then the training, and showing up on time is a problem.
We got a whole bunch
how to
of
use your phone and say, I'm sick today.
scrambling around.
We did a lot of that, especially around the holidays.
Imagine that.
I didn't know they were so evasive.
The holidays
I
were.
didn't care out there.
My daughter works, the switchback, doing ones, and, you know,
So we're landed when they come up and go to see.
I tell you what, she works more double shifts towards holidays and all that, just for people that
That's fine.
don't show up.
Yeah.
Oh, no, our good
What I
folk
did
is
this year was
even
I
to
took
death,
the ones that,
you know, you know.
when they bloom,
One of our guys, you know, like, Allie went on 2 weeks without a day.
throw them away before they spread seeds.
Oh, okay, all right.
You know, plus we, I think what we got rid of 60
Do that.
more, and
That's a good idea.
only been open for 3 months.
That's a good idea to do that.
Well, about 10 more, you'll have it,
Well,
close
you
to
know,
ready to quit. And
you know, the problem is with our business is procedure.
I know.
You know, and so every year you gotta start with a new.
Well, hell, usually that's a plus, because nobody wants to work year round.
Well, yeah, but trying to get, you know, crew together every year, you know, we're starting to do good.
Yeah.
They all call in sick. They just call us when one of them said it, she said it was not sick. The one that has the incineration meeting,
It won't be ready till
Like,
April.
the money is-
I know, that's true.
The one, I'm sure that they
Back up.
You must have gotten it all, what are you doing?
So I have a feeling there'll be another version before our meeting.
Hey, you're on vacation.
I'm doing good.
Good.
More and more high tech with that stuff.
Right into the microphone and probably, you know, throughout the years of watching on TV, I'm like, I'm doing fine.
Well, at least everybody will know.
No, they're no, I'm good. I should have said I'm going to bed.
We've seen some
Thank
people
you.
on,
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Reuse it.
She's got a little board that she was sticking them on. I don't know if you want to call her
She
and
said
borrow
there's
that or not.
a couple of chalkboards over there that are magnetic, so
it is when it goes down, when it goes up, it's a real, it's
she's got it all set and ready to go.
Just needs to get rid of your
So what generally is the blowout?
Well, we're working on it as quick as we can. moved everything around last night, but we moved everything around last night, but we tried to keep as many together as we could that are existing, so.
I think I've kind of got a relationship here after 3 years.
Okay.
But if you feel inspired to do something, that's fine. I'm just putting it on.
You were with Brother Coops?
Bert and April McKee.
When you build a damn house on Volcano, you better expect it.
Yeah, I don't know.
You can't feel.
I got a great active family, they hate kids
Nobody
only,
over
but
there that dumb.
You know, insurance is called
every time I go there, she gets mad at me for
We're
not.
zone 1 mile.
You know, it's funny, because she is a sweet lady. I don't know them, I guess.
Oh, no. This crazy ass people there. Beautiful home.
Sweet lady, she's like.
You know, I was talking to talking to my daughter, and I'm going, you know what's funny about Hawaii? There's not a mobile home.
I don't know. I don't know anything about it. Where they live.
I mean, that's just about it.
Yeah, she's, I mean, I don't know that I could go to church person.
She's nice.
But you know, it's not like in the Tarzan movie where you're coming in.
Just wasting time. That's what we're after.
That's the time I've ever seen my house home was there.
What do you got, the lawyer's seat tonight?
He's not here.
Well, that's
Well,
good.
we don't have such family than Sean. I don't know, if the attorney's gonna be here, I'll drag up a photo here.
Is Cameron coming tonight?
Better be, because I don't know what the hell we're doing.
5 minutes after.
Well, you know, there's one place over there.
I have got to get paper. Okay, so you're there. How did you get there? Well, that's planning and zoning agenda. We need it made.
And they had to worry about my time place on the chair. You know, so I took a picture and sent it to the kids, and I said, see, that is over in dirt.
May 9th regular meeting, it says on it.
Yeah, it's about, you know, it takes you to the
Why doesn't the yours seem to be updating this stuff?
I don't know.
Look like you cook cookies and lashes, you know, roast apples. So what do you
Is it in your file? File folder?
Yeah, he was in the folder, but he doesn't have everything.
Well, maybe no, that's not it.
Back in the cloud drive, let's see. There it is.
May 9th?
Oops. Delete it though. Just wanna look at it. There you go.
And then we got
Just chapter 9.
Oh,
that's around sunset, isn't it?
what is chapter 9? I don't even know. I don't remember.
Thought he was coming. I guess I can text him, see if he's on his
If
way.
I hurry and leave, we will only have 2 and we can just,
Huh?
I said if I hurry and leave, we'll only have 2 and we can just declare no meeting.
Shane's here too.
Yeah.
I saw black, does Cameron drive a black truck?
I don't know what he drives.
Usually drives a gray
Red,
car or a red
kind of a
pickup.
maroon color.
I just saw him pick that go by.
So which is that's the bad chair, and this is the probably worst chair.
I just got scared of sitting in front of the R2-D2 looking stuff.
I just got to sit over here by my partner in crime.
You better be patient.
Heck no. guess you could get us started on our work meeting.
Yeah, so you guys.
Okay, where did you go to get us
Oh my goodness.
into this thing again?
Go back out of that.
I don't know. I'm not gonna turn that one on unless I have to, but it's nice to have it out.
Okay, now how do we get out of that? No.
Oh, this chair's way too long. I like that it's kind of a
glasses.
couples night, Kit and Diane, Andy D.
Well, let's just get started and go as far as we can, shall we?
Yeah.
Let's see, how do you turn this on?
That's about where we're at.
Okay,
So chapter 9 review is what we got on there first. Is that something you're working on, Sean? Or? I thought that's what this stuff was for.
Well, it still needs to talk about.
All right.
You got us out here, we want to hear you.
They don't want to hear me. Division of land. Have you guys been working
Where
on
are we
that
at?
one, or-
chapter 9.
Chapter
Was
9.
that a Cameron thing? I don't know.
So, what is chapter 9 for?
Division
What
of
are we-
land.
Well, what are we looking at on it?
I have no idea.
It must have been something he was working
I
on.
know there was something about,
I have no
in
notes.
the town meeting, they were talking about changing, I know they changed fees on that.
Well, we did that a long time ago though, right after I got mine. In fact, the same meeting I got mine.
Was this just barely? That
Changed,
was just
added
like
fees.
a month ago or so.
Well, it's
It was the thing about,
Well, I'm looking to see any changes on it.
But-
I don't see anything else on it. I don't know what he was
No,
working
I
on.
don't have any notes on that. I don't know.
Are you
Let's-
trying to figure out the purpose of it?
Yeah, what were we
so
doing?
share, please.
Number one, we believe we have a couple subdivisions coming up, so you need to get familiar with chapter 9.
Okay.
Secondly, we would eventually like it redone. It's so confusing the way it's written. And like, if you're doing the division of land waiver part, you don't have to do all the rest of it. And then it's got steps and then the division of land waiver, so it jumps around,
Mm-hmm.
kind of just.
So we wanted to kind of go through and clean it up and,
Streamline, simplify, yes,
okay.
We can do
as well as you guys learning it to be prepared.
Okay.
All right. So, unless Cameron's got something to add, I don't have anything to do on that right now, but that's a big.
Well,
big
let's give us
chapter.
a chance. At least now that we know about it, we can get going on looking it over and make some, suggestions.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to the next item then. If he shows up, maybe he's got more on it. The
Got
home
more.
occupation.
Home occupation, I'm working with Monica on that. So I think
We're making headway, but we're not there.
yeah,
And that's the business, basically home-based business, right?
yeah, yeah.
Did Cameron get you my stuff by chance?
That's
I just found out today that I was doing this meeting, so Misty may have gotten it, but I haven't seen it.
Okay, it's not in here anyway, so.
There's application for the home occupation for Springdale, what they have.
Yeah, that's just their, application. It's just a sample thing for,
Do we have an ordinance? Well, I'm sure we do, I know we do.
yeah, it's, chapter 8, chapter something.
6.
6. I've got it down here somewhere. I'm buried under here, yeah.
I gotta learn how to operate this thing.
I still think I need to go back to paper.
I'm not seeing that she has anything on chapter 6 in your file.
Okay.
So it's just something we need to get familiar with again.
Sounds like it.
And,
So what next?
and you were working on that one?
I went through it completely, sent it over to Cameron, he wrote some notes on it, sent it back, but I thought he was gonna, he told me he sent it into the city to have it to look at tonight, but I don't see it in there, so.
What was that?
Basically just.
Which one?
6, chapter 6,
Home.
home occupation. Well, we're hitting, bat and zero here. Town BLM rezone. Who's got that one?
I presume,
Okay, that would be,
I presume that's what was brought up in town council. Jay Lee,
What's that?
I guess it's that property right there, I don't have any notes on it from the meeting.
so, the land around the BMX track, we're trying to look into it and see what would best work if we, the town doesn't have the resources and ability to really do the RMPP well enough, so, we're looking at, there's a couple of people are interested, in potentially purchasing that to do a campground. Because when we submitted our initial application for RMPP, BLM says, no, we want to see camping on pretty much every point. So if we don't have camping there, then it's gonna be hard to get something done through them. So we found a couple of interested parties that would do a campground, but it would have to be all private and it wouldn't be through the RMPP. Therefore, we would want to, that BLM would offer it up under a auction. They would auction off the land, basically. They'll do an appraisal and all the paperwork for it, and then they would do an auction and sell that property, the 70 acres. But if the town wants to have kind of any say in what's going on with that land around that BMX track, we need to make sure it's in the right zone. Currently, on this map, it shows that it is open space district. But I don't remember when that happened. It was supposed to be rural residential, but it shows open space, and I don't know if this is a future map or if it's an actual map, and I can't find any paperwork that shows that, and I just need to get with the office to see if they have anything that shows when that was changed to open space.
But by letting them buy that for a campground, have we got any, I mean, have we reserved any of that, or can we reserve part of it for some of our other things we want to do up at the BMX track?
Here's the thing, if we want to do any of it, we have to have a plan already in place and the money to do that. And the town doesn't have those funds and isn't looking like we're going to have those funds within the next 5 to 10 years. And BLM is wanting to move on that sooner than we
Well,
can
what
move,
I'm asking
so.
is there any way we can, and I don't know who's looking at it or who you've talked to, but is there any way that we could talk to them and get a portion of that, get them to offer to sell it back to the city in a year or 2 or 10 or whenever we can afford to get it
Once it is
sold?
out of BLM hands, the town will have a lot more options.
Well,
If we want to RMPP some of that would be great, but like I say, we have to have the plans.
well, but I'm saying, if you've talked to the people that are doing it, is there any way they'd be open to reserving a piece next to BLM track,
So
for
far,
that?
the people we've talked to said, yeah, they wanna work with the town in making sure that there's buffer areas and there's areas that may be park related that the town can
Well,
utilize.
We had
things like
talked
that.
about moving our ball diamonds and stuff like that all up there at one time, but.
Right. Yeah, there's not enough room, particularly in that spot, that would be ideal. I mean, there's enough room if we're willing to do all the work for it. And the cost of that would be pretty high, so we'd have to find some kind of sponsor anyways, And this is an ideal way to have a sponsor already on the land. And if something like that helps benefit their campground, RV, whatever type park ends up being, that would be great. So, but right now, nothing's happening with it. We're not gonna move forward with it because the town's not prepared to do a campground themselves, so. So we just need the right zone. The open space zone is, it looks like it says it's open space already, but that also allows for single-family dwellings to be on there, just as it does rural residential. So I don't know if that's the right zone. We were potentially proposing creating a zone that would just allow that only to be camping or something, and then you'd only get somebody in there that could do camping, and that's all. But lots of options. If, I know,
Oh, we got a public meeting coming up.
I was
We're
gonna
ready to
say.
talk on it, so. So we just don't know anything too much on it right yet then. Do you know who the folks are that are looking at it, or?
yeah, Glenn Dickman is his name, and April Gates. You know April.
Yeah, I know Glenn too.
Okay. So they've got the means and the vision. There's a few other people that indicated if it came up for sale, they'd be interested, but we as a town want to help out, kind of gear that towards what would benefit the BMX park, because that is the town property. So.
Well, campground would definitely help.
Yeah. So.
They have people coming in from out of town for races there and everything?
Yeah, they had almost 300 riders a couple of weekends ago. There's a few people over there, did you notice?
Didn't go.
Huh?
Didn't go.
You didn't go. But you didn't notice either, so I guess it was all right.
I was up on the mesa for the race.
Oh, did you run it?
Dream on.
Does that mean no?
Jay went, it was a big event, he said. It's pretty cool to see that many riders.
Good.
So, that's going to continue. It's a good location, good event. Just need to support it with whatever we can, and we feel that kind of privatizing that land rather than in BLM hands would be the best route. So we'll bring, yeah, if there's something we need to change in that, we'll bring it up next month. So, because there's nothing we can do tonight.
Where can we check to make sure that's the proper zoning?
I will look tomorrow. I see very little residential or rural on that, right?
On that 80, on the 80 acres?
No, on that map. Is that map just the 80 acres?
No.
That's virgin.
This is the whole town. This little piece here is in green, and that says open space district. I just wonder if at one time we said all BLM will come in as open space, and,
I'll check tomorrow and see for sure.
but, cause this would have been this would have been part of the land that came in later with an annexation.
I'm not sure I remember it being open space.
That's why I don't remember it either, and it's like, oh, well, it says it's open space, but is it? Thank you. That's why I'm looking, I'm like, okay.
Cameron didn't know there was a work meeting, so.
He what?
Cameron didn't know there was a work meeting, so he's on his way.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I texted him too.
So on to the next one.
Yeah, general plan collaborative meeting date. I'm guessing that's
For the
Rob
engineers
getting all
and all
the
that,
people together with us, right?
Yep.
Here's the guy that knows what's going on.
In the know.
Been late. I thought this thing started at 6:30.
I always do that too.
Cool, now I can go to sleep, thanks.
Would have set ours the same time as like the town meetings, so We don't get them mixed up. We can get more done in less
You know, it's the
time.
middle of the afternoon for the planning and zoning, so.
I know, this is the middle of, I had a lot of work to do. It's still light.
We, just cruised over chapter 9, understand we're all supposed to look at it. And I don't have anything in here, nothing was sent over to Monica either on the home occupation, so we're not talking about that unless you've got copies to everybody or something. So
I don't have copies of that.
me neither. And then he just talked to us about the BLM.
I gotta run out to my pickup and get a notepad,
Good idea.
so I can notes about what I gotta do.
Do you wanna send somebody with us so we didn't run?
We don't have our table this time.
I don't have it at all.
Can't plug it
It's
in.
gone. Yeah, you gotta plug yours in.
No,
You
I'll
can
be
go over
alright.
that, what,
I can
Yeah.
get
are
it.
you gonna let him do it?
Turn them over on it. We're just.
We're
on
on.
He's here
number
now,
eight,
it's his fault.
which is the general plan collaborative meeting date. I'm guessing Rod talked to you on that, right?
Yeah, so I got an email from Rod. Did you guys get that email that he sent out?
No. How soon was it?
It was last week.
Oh,
I forwarded it to Misty and she was
Yeah,
gonna send it out to
yeah.
everyone.
Last week, yeah, about that.
Yeah, there was just what days you guys wanted to meet. What did he say? Find that real quick.
Monday, like the 19th, 20th, 21st,
Yeah, that's what I remember too.
been his first choice.
Yeah, so what day is good for you guys? I guess that was
Are
the
you
big
doing it in the evening
question.
or what?
What dates?
That's up to us. I think the evenings is what he's planning on.
This month?
Yes, so they would like May, sometime, but they prefer May 21st through the 23rd, sometime in those dates. They-
23rd's out.
They would do the 15th, 16th, or 17th as well, though.
Meet before the council meeting, but that's middle of the afternoon.
We can do the
Yeah.
23rd, 24th.
Not the, she emailed me back and said they had to take the 24th off the table. They're not available on the 24th.
What was the other date, 16th and 17th?
15th, 16th, and 17th.
I could do 16th, 17th, or 23rd for me.
So it'd be next,
That's next week.
Next Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I won't be here Tuesday and Wednesday, but I would be Thursday.
I'll be here Thursday.
I can't do Thursdays.
What's that?
Can't do Thursdays. 21st or 22nd then?
I can't on either one of those. I can on the 23rd.
23rd is
Council.
council meeting. We could meet.
I don't know if
somewhere
this man's
else.
gonna be able
How
to be
much-
here. His daughter's graduating.
How long is this meeting, did he think it'd take? It shouldn't be.
They didn't say. He
It's-
didn't say.
Could we do it before council meeting?
We probably could. That
He
put it.
wants at least 2 hours, and it won't work with council because he wants council there also. if
He-
possible.
yeah.
Well, but if
We were
we
gonna
went
invite
before-
them, but
2 hours?
he wanted 2 hours. He didn't say that to me.
Wow. Now that's a meeting.
That's just for him.
Okay.
That's just his portion of
That's
it.
just his.
Well,
We'll
that
take
we
the next
won't
5
be able to do
minutes
it
off.
before council then. Not 2 hours really. I won't be able to do it that early.
And then it's Memorial Weekend after
And then it's
that.
Memorial Weekend after that. Do you wanna do it during council meeting? We don't have to be at council meeting. That's not something we're required to do. And council doesn't have to be at this planning and zoning meeting, or this,
No,
general plan meeting either.
it's hard to invite them though.
Yes, it would make it impossible to
Does it
invite them.
have to be those dates, or can they do the next week after that?
I think they're under pressure to get this done, soon, so that's why they wanted to meet sooner rather than later.
Didn't think they could finish it until after June.
Well, I think that's when they wanna
Okay.
finish it, was like,
None
the
of those
first part of
days work
June.
for all of you.
look like it.
No. Who can't be here on the Wednesday, the 16th? Is that you? Gene?
No, I can be here on the 16th.
Who couldn't be here on the 16th?
I could probably do it on the 16th if you've done it a little later.
Later, I think it would be
Cause I've
later.
got to go to Idaho Tuesday and back Wednesday.
It'll be a long day for
So
you.
it'd be after you get back from
So
Idaho.
I would assume I should be able to get back by 4, 5, 6 o'clock, but I don't know.
It'd be a rough one to discern from.
Yeah, if we
Just-
started at 6:30 and went till 8:30.
Yeah, bring your pillow. Dina's gonna bring snacks that day too.
I can't drive, or I can't sleep, so, because I gotta drive.
Is that gonna be all right for you, or?
Be
Oh,
able to
yeah,
have
okay.
them.
Okay,
16.
What's the other
16th?
couple hours?
6:30. Can you send that email to him? Tell him sorry, none of the other dates really work for anyone.
Oh,
I better write that down.
6:30?
6:30. Alright, I guess that takes care of that one. What else is there on our agenda tonight?
That's
On
just
that
the
chapter 9, I don't know.
I can look at that real quick, just tell everybody about it. I redid all the suggestions you guys did, take a look at that later. I didn't get it up to the cloud, but one little page here.
One thing I got a little bit of a question on is the third statement, end of the first line, rural.
I'm having such a hard time fitting that word in there. Can I just take it out?
Yes, I mean,
Okay,
I personally, that would,
Done.
I would like it rather out.
Okay, cause I tried fitting it everywhere and it just doesn't work, so I'm okay with not having that word in there at all.
Well, if you just took rural out and just enjoy the atmosphere and beauty of the area.
Yep.
That would be my feeling. Because rural is a thing of the past.
Mm-hmm. I'm more than okay with that one. All right, yeah, let me know later on if you guys have any other thing that you notice in there. And I'll make sure this gets to Rod and their team as well, and they can look it over, and I'll give our jumping off point for our meeting on the 16th, which is next week.
It's next week. Alright, finish up our work meeting. Anything else?
On that, we discussed chapter 9 before you got here.
Mhm.
Monica just wants us to, she said there's a couple of subdivisions coming in and that we need to revamp that chapter 9, simplify it and make it clear.
Get familiar with it.
Get familiar with chapter 9. Okay. That's the subdivision ordinance, isn't it?
Yeah.
And my understanding is on that rezone, it's already zoned open space, so we don't need to worry about it.
We're gonna find out.
We're not for sure.
Find out for sure.
Yeah.
What about the other one that Lori's been working on? Is it gonna have to change? or
That
is
will
it
have to
okay?
change, but that will,
What is it now? Rural
rural
residential?
residential.
Is it across the river?
At
I
the
think it
private
was, but
land,
I can't
there's your
remember.
map. It's, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I guess it is rural residential.
So this is the piece that.
Is there any
the
reason
BLM
it couldn't
one.
be rural
then
residential
all
and
this
still
is-
do what they're doing?
Wait, all this, it's actually this piece. That's the Falls Park. And this is the piece they're talking about, it kinda comes up this way. I don't think it's these sections, I think it's this, what's the little here.
Other than, I think that sorry, Mr. Peterson, I forgot your first name. Kent. It just slipped me. He could probably tell us more, but I would assume that they would just prefer it be open space rather than rural residential. Is that the case?
Yeah, there wouldn't be any rural residential.
Yeah.
If it was zoned rural residential, we really wouldn't care. But we'll just leave it open space.
Yeah. So you don't care either way, whether it
So-
stays the zone it is or whether it gets changed, it's not.
Yeah, because the easement, the conservation easement will have the restrictions in and of itself
Mm-hmm.
as to what can be done there. Our obligation is to monitor that. So, for example, there are many conservation easements that are agricultural. And the conservation easement, one of the objectives would be to continue that agricultural. That's what the landowner wanted in creating the conservation easement, was for the farm to continue to
Yeah.
exist, no matter who owns it. So that would mean that we don't really care how it's zoned. As an owner, we would just, we would work with the owner, who would be us in this case, or some other conservation group like Nature Conservancy, and we would monitor to keep it that open space. So it would be for the trails and hiking and biking, things that are basically done in that property now without any development.
Okay. So I guess the only reason to rezone it is if we didn't allow hiking and stuff in rural residential.
Well, and I think we do, and besides that, you're gonna wanna build some trailheads, some restrooms, things like that, so.
Right.
And
The
whether
open
that's,
space covers that.
does it open space cover it?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so then, but if it don't matter to them, then there's no reason to go through the process, is there?
I wouldn't think so. Not unless they preferred it.
What's the question?
There's no reason to rezone it to open space. I mean, there's no reason for us to go through the process of
No.
doing it, if it don't matter to you.
No.
Alright.
We would want to, as an owner, if we're a fee type of owner, we would want, like any owner, the opportunity, maybe we would want to do some kind of a special zone or something for something, I don't foresee, but.
Well, but you just make application like anybody else would then.
Okay.
Exactly. So we're just like any other owner.
Let's go ahead and close our work meeting and move into our regular meeting. So we'll have our call to order, declaration of conflicts. Does anyone have any declarations to declare?
No.
No.
No. Sean?
Nope.
Perfect. All right. All right, so we'll go to number 3. Someone want to make that motion?
I'll make a motion, we close the public meeting and open the public hearing.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll go ahead and open our public hearing to allow for public input. We're going to start with item number A on the agenda. This is the continuation from last meeting. So it's the reopening of Chapter 1, which is the resort zone. Chapter 21, sorry. Resort zone, which was originally designated for the Zion River Resort. So what we've done here is we've kind of, rather than look at creating a new zone, just taking an existing zone that had been closed and reopening it to the community to allow it to expand, to be visible to available to other people. besides the one RV park that we do have already. All right, does someone like to, if there's any comments regarding that, just come on up, state your name and
My name is Jack Ruggles, and I think it's a great idea to conflate those two zones together. I live right across the street from the RV park that's existing now, and I get to see the sign out in front of it, quite full, almost always. Can't even get a tent, everything's, another reason I refer people to them quite a bit. You know, people ask me, people have a hard time finding places to stay in this area. The Springdale's bus just full packed. They have to go to St. George and Cedar City and even further to find any place. We're now ranking number 3 in is the national parks in America now, just barely behind Grand Canyon. From what I'm told, we're boys that go to number 1. And some of the talk is that the way things are going, we're looking at a 2-year waiting list to come to Zion National Park. This isn't me, this is just near the ground. I'm some people have heard some of this. Yeah, we need, we don't want to turn Virgin into a, an RV park, but I think there's certainly potential for 1 or 2 more. And it's self-serving, I understand, because I'm trying to sell part of my property to accommodate another RV park. I think it's just I think it's where we're going to fit right now, because we're just not able to accommodate the numbers of people that come to this beautiful park. So, here's my input.
thank you.
Jean Powell's. You guys just scheduled, like, 15 minutes ago, a meeting a week from today, to talk about the general plan collaborative meeting, to see what has been recommended from the general plan open houses. And so I just think that maybe we should wait to see what the general plan open houses have to say about our camping in town. It's only one more week, you're gonna find out what the results of the general plan open houses were. So I think this is just a little premature, that's all I'm thinking. Now, in the meantime, though, about camping in town, you know, I'm not against another RV park in town as long as it's not just, if as you, come up with opening resort zone, maybe you try to say, over here, as opposed to anywhere in town. That's all that has ever been my issue with an additional RV park is a location. However, so those are my 2 things. We're about to find out what the general plan people have to say, and then maybe a location. That's it.
Thank you.
I'm Kent Peterson. Some concerns, a question first of all, so does this rezoning, for an overall city opening of a resort anywhere in the city, so maybe on Jean's question, or my question is, or are we just talking about this 70 acres?
So this is, so what we're talking about is reopening a zone that would be available under the restrictions which it has, which are pretty minimal. So this would open it up to the entire city right now.
Right, so at this point, it's been closed,
Mm-hmm.
unless something like this comes forward, and then you'll consider reopening.
And that's what we're doing, is looking at reopening it.
Some, thank you. Concerns that I have and my wife for this particular proximity that's been considered is, local traffic is an issue on Pocketville Road today, let alone, down the road when there's a campground up above that. And I know the answer to that down the road is going to be, well, the new, terrace regarding, up there is a very different climate zone than here at Zion RV. So we get higher winds and a little more harsh of a zone. I would be concerned about campfires in that area if they're not carefully monitored and zoned to be safe from any kind of high kinds of winds that we have up there. Another issue that we would have would be the location of where you put this, and I assume probably the closer to the terrace road for those kinds of projects, like a campground, such as the BMX is now, closer to the terrace road than closer over towards 385 East and the people that live over that way. And I think we've done some talking about that in the past, so those would be some concerns that I would have as well. And the proximity to those people that have established residence in that corner of the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
I have one more thing I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot.
Feel free.
Sorry, Jean Krause again. I had three things I was going to say, and I mentioned two, and I forgot the third. The third has to do with, Jack was talking about the traffic coming into town, and the park is seriously, the chances that they're moving to a reservation system are really high. They're seriously working on that there will be a reservation system for in and out of the park, and I think when that goes into, action, that there will be, my guess, I expect that's gonna be less people coming through town. Just keep that in mind. And what are you laughing at, Sean?
I've seen the economy go completely the opposite of that. So yes, I agree that it can be happen, but it also can raise it because more people want to go there because of the reservation.
But I mean, if the reservation system goes into action, let's just.
They just
I'm
limit the
gonna make
number.
up a number and say that 1,000 people can come in on May 21st, then we're not gonna have 50,000 people drive in. If only 1,000 people have a reservation, the other 49 are gonna be turned away. That's all I'm saying. I was just making up a number, but just to spark you.
Right. I'm good.
Yeah. Thanks, Gene.
Supply and demand.
Any further comments from anyone else?
So, just kind of for you, ma'am, because I got my ear to the ground, I got horse riding, paying attention to this stuff, I get, the other day, I had a bunch of riders come because they told me that there was a 6-hour waiting list just to go do Angel's Landing. They wanted to
Thanks, Jack. Any further comments on line A? Chapter 21. Any further comments on chapter 21? Sorry. I'll try to speak up. All right, we'll move to B. This is also a continuation from last month. This is the ordinance amending chapter 16, 17, 24, and subsections found within, which require updating to meet the changing needs of the town and to accommodate the town's desire to have opportunities for affordable housing within the town's boundaries. So this is the chapters. We're looking at adjusting the minimum house size from 1,000 square feet, which it is currently, down to fit the requirements of the building code, the International Building Code, which could make a building as small as about 250 square feet approximately. So would allow anything that the building codes allow.
That's the IDC.
Is it gonna be a bathroom outside or inside?
That would be the bathroom. That would be the bathroom inside.
So you're gonna live in that, all right?
Any comments on house size adjustments? That's what we were asking.
How many will be on each property?
So this would not change the required lot size. It would not change any setback sizes. It would not change any other regulations other than allowing for smaller homes. There has been several homes in the last 2 years that the city has forced them to add square footage onto their home to meet this requirement. And there have been a couple dozen inquiries and applications for homes that are smaller than we currently allow.
Is there a restriction on how many homes can be built on one property?
Yes, one home per property,
One home per property. And what's the acreage on it? 1 acre?
1 acre.
So if they build a house, 250.
For existing lot.
250 square feet, that's what they got for.
Correct. If you have comments, please come up. That way we can kind of keep a little bit of order.
Is there any chance they would change that lot size? It seems like an awful lot of lot for a little tiny house.
So the reason why we have the lot size is per our agreement with the Water Conservancy District, and so that we can maintain our septic system without contaminating groundwater and surface water with Alan.
I was gonna say, I think once we get the general plan in, we've been doing a bunch of work on a sewer system and water improvements. And once we get those online, then we should be able to go through and adjust the lot sizes.
What would you anticipate?
Oh, I have no idea. Whatever people would want.
That would be we're looking at years down the road for projects like that.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, if we got started on the sewer, it'd be ready in a year, but.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it sounds great if it's good.
Kent?
Jeff and I are doing a rotation.
Yeah.
So has there been thought or research, or do you have any knowledge about home values being affected by home sizes? So if you have a home that is established and then there's a zone change an ordinance change that you can build small than you currently have, how does that affect somebody that has a moderate or medium-sized home next door?
Yeah, I wouldn't know of any studies done per.
I would think there would be studies that some bigger cities would have had with this with regards to how that might be zoned to better protect home values for the small and then somebody bringing in a 6,000 square foot mansion next door. How does the small home, the low cost person feel about that? So,
I like the idea of around 1,300 square feet. Seems like a good number.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
Diane Peterson.
Thank you, Diane. Any additional comments, questions? All right. Now, just so you know, this is your guys' time to speak. So we will be discussing these items after this open hearing. So don't think that we're ignoring your concerns or questions if we don't initially talk about them. All right, we'll move to number C. This is an ordinance amending Chapter 8, Section 8.2, the conditional use permit, and 8.11, which is the limited commercial habitation. So what we've done is, at the request of staff and the council, we have gone through and we looked at our conditional use permit application process, and we've tried to simplify that down to make it easier for everyone to understand, for it to be initiated, so there isn't so many complications with it. And then we also looked at 8.11, which is the limited commercial habitation, and we've eased up the restrictions on commercial habitation to encourage home-occupied businesses in the city. Yeah, like yours, Andy. So we've loosened up the restrictions on that to make it more open and available to a wider range of people. If there's any comments on our changes, Jean's going to have a comment. Anyone else?
Yeah, okay. I was trying to read this real fast.
That's a small screen to read fast on.
That's why I wasn't sure exactly what I want to say. But I was the one who was asked town council to have you guys review the conditional use permit process. And then Misty stood up at the same meeting and said, yes, please, it needs to be updated. And what I want you guys to address when you go to the meeting after this public hearing is over, what exactly is it that you did here on Chapter 8 that made it easier? I'm not sure I see what it was that you did. As I'm trying to read this to see what the change is, and I'm not sure. But what was my main issue that I had asked the town council, that I had asked you guys to address, was someone coming in and asking for a conditional use permit on a building that already exists. And because the way our conditional use permit process reads right now, they're thinking you're building a building. And so what I wanted you guys to look at was two different routes for conditional use process. First question asked is the building already there, or are they going to build a building? If the building is already there, then you go down one route. If you're going to build a building, then you go down a different route, because there's less of what is involved in trying to get a conditional use permit in my mind. And that's what I was hoping you guys would do, and I don't see that here. So I just want to point that out. And then
Yes.
maybe when we go back to the meeting, just let me know what it was that was changed, because I can't see it. Not that it wasn't happening, I don't have enough time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you.
I'm in favor of it.
Jack?
Not understand, so. Is this like, if I had, even did is this like if neighbors wanted to park an RV during the season on the property to get a, could they live in an RV on my property?
No.
Or something like that, is there something not like that, something going in the, no, so, no, okay. But is this something like, could I have some kind of housing for the employees? Or something like that?
So, if you're asking about the commercial habitation,
Yeah,
so that would be a habitation within a business.
right.
So, one building, business, home, one building.
Oh, so my home would be a
Yes.
place.
Yes.
Well,
Like,
is-
like Dee and Andy, they have a business, they have their house. Alan?
But, if you had a shop or something, you could put a home in it too, if that was the business.
Correct.
Oh,
Yeah, so if you had a garage, an auto shop,
yeah,
build a home on the back of it, yes.
I got it.
Or remodel.
Or remodel to apply them.
I could actually put in facilities in for, like I said, for my employees. Not employees.
So you
But
need,
it specifies who can live in that.
correct. You need to go through and read that, because there's, we've specified, you know, it's not to create a business of itself to house
No,
people.
no,
So-
it's not. I'm thinking just for the business, for the workers there to have a place to stay. And, I don't think any of them are jihadis.
Thank you. Kent, did you have something? Anyone else? All right, we'll move on to D, the rezone for parcel number V2140A4A1 from commercial to highway resort zone. This is Jack Ruggles' property, and he is asking to be rezoned from commercial to the highway resort zone. Jack?
I've been here 14 years, I've never talked too much.
Well, I don't know if I go that far.
Oh, no. This is indirect, but, you know, the question I had is, I don't wanna give up my commercial, well, what is that? Do I give something up by getting rid of my commercial and turning the whole thing into highway resort? If so, then I'd like to maybe keep part of it commercial and the rest of it highway resort. Is that what you think?
I don't know that we split zone properties, do we?
What difference does it make?
It-
As long as it's not, you know, quarter acre pieces or something.
Yeah. I don't know what that would require. I don't know.
If
So-
it was commercial, would I lose the ability to do something by giving up commercial and
I-
switching to this?
I think most everything allowed in commercial is allowed in highway resort. Almost everything. I'm not sure, I haven't,
You need to go through and read two of them side by side and see what they are, cause I don't remember.
I can answer that for you. Is that okay, Cameron?
yes, go ahead, please.
If you take the commercial zone and you take the highway resort zone and you put them side by side, they allow the exact same uses. The only difference is highway resort zone adds lodging use. So that's the only difference between commercial and highway resort.
That-
That's it. That's it.
That was my understanding, but I wasn't 100% on that. Thanks, thank you. Any other comments on that rezone?
Where is this parcel?
So this is the piece that's directly across from the current RV park.
Okay, so this is Jeff's, this is your.
Jack's, yep. That's his place. Do you have the map that you can put up? Yep, so it's right there.
One of the highlights.
In the dark, within the dark lines. It's kind of hard to tell, but that's kind of a weird map.
And that's the RV park across the street.
Yep.
Like somebody sober with lots.
Any comments on that? All right. We'll move to number 4. Someone want to give me a motion?
Motion to close the public hearing and open the public meeting.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Dina's second, we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Alan has stepped out for a minute, but he'll be back. All right, so now we're gonna go into open forum. This open forum time, we limit the time to 2 minutes per speaker. This is a time where you can address any of the concerns or questions you have within the city at this time
That are not on the agenda.
that are not already on the, that we didn't already just discuss in that public hearing. All right.
Are we waiting for them to come back?
Nope,
No.
we're open forum. We're at open forum if anyone wants to bring any concerns or questions up.
My name is Bob Corris, and, I've had a little bit of problems with, signing problems that exist here, ridiculous, movement that was made years ago about a sign ordinance that was based strictly on sign ordinance that exists in Springville, which has no similarity to where we are here. I put up some art of the chief and some names around the fireplace. I would love for the committee to vote them as art. I've been dragged into court over them. The judge has already dismissed it as art, and it's caused a lot of conflict for me. Andy has beautiful buildings. They're built, they're considered art, certainly not inhabitable, but it brings a feeling of the West to this area, helps promote business. The art that I have up is actually done by a local artist who lives here in Virgin. And, I don't need to vote, but it is art, so I can move on. I find it hard to believe that in a town where we have so much to be proud of, that we want to keep it from being exhibited. I mean, not only did I spend $1,100 installing art and using local people, not going out of the realm of this town, which I always did. I would like a little bit of leeway to do some things that would be very interesting. I'm sure everyone here knows that even Mountain Lifestyles named my diamond the #1 diamond in the state of Utah. #1, and I'm a one-man restaurant. My reviews on Yelp and so on are extraordinary. Something to be proud of in this town, that you have the best diamond in the state of Utah. You can put a sign up that says that, to draw more business in. Be able to spend some money to make my place look better. I'm too far off the road. I need help to try to make my area so it's not a pass by. So that people want to come in. It's already got the reputation that it needs to have, and that definitely gives a lot of credit to this town. So I've done my part. I need your help to be able to put those signs up so you can help me now. I'll do it on my own.
Thank you. Buffalo Trails. Andy, go ahead, Andy.
I can kind of understand where Bob's coming from. I'm Andy Anderson. Cause I was there before he was. And you're sitting back against the road and nobody sees you. That's why I built those buildings. And they used to go put out in front, you know. Trying to find the balance between art and garbage and, you know, is the real issue. collectible dolls, I sell, each one of these things is almost a business in itself. And trying to let that people going by at 50 miles an hour know what I've got inside, is difficult. And I think if the city would try to work with us to help us promote it, and find an avenue that, is gonna satisfy everybody, I think it'd be really great. I hire between 8 and 10 people, to keep my place open, and that puts a lot of money in the community. And then these people pockets and gives them a place to, make a living. I probably buy, I don't know how many, $100,000 worth of Native American jewelry. And that puts, I don't know how many people to work and helps them out. So, I think what I'm doing is what we want to do, but I would like to find a way of doing it where we're not at each other's throats about it and threatening everybody. And, I'd like to get rid of the animosity and see people kind of work together and pull this community into what we got. And, we're not going to compete with God if they're in the canyon, but I think we do have something down here that we should be proud of, and we can create our own draw. And I'm seeing that on a daily basis. People go up there and they turn around and they come down here. So if we're just gonna be a parking lot for Springdale, or a bathroom, and low income housing so that we can put in a substation for the police department, I think we're kind of going the wrong way. Because the whole world's looking, that comes out here is looking for the West. And we're about it. And I think if we got behind that kind of push, I think we'd do a lot better for our community and push our, pioneer heritage and, what we've got going here and work that direction. That's about it.
Thanks, Andy. Anyone else have any comments for the open forum? No, you had your 2 minutes. Sorry. Try to keep this moving along. Sorry about that.
Well, I would like to just say one thing. This brings money into the town. Seems like you need money. And that's one of the things that we're here to help contribute to as well. We don't want to go extraordinary. We don't want neon signs going up and down Highway 9. What we want to do is we work hard. When we work hard, that money comes into you. And you use it for purposes that this town needs. We're tasteful. We want to do tasteful things. And if that brings that business in, and plus the reputation that my restaurant has and so on, this is stuff that you want to be proud of and get out there with, because the more that come in there, the more money comes into this town. I think that's important for all of them.
Thank you. Anyone else? Jack? Nope. You scared me, Jack. I thought you were getting up again.
I want to ask a question about the zoning changes I'm making and see what it will allow me to do. So is that now a good time or whatever?
We'll talk about it in the meeting.
Yeah, we'll go over that quite a little bit. All right, if there's nothing else, we'll move on to number 5. This discussion possible recommendation to approve or deny proposed rezone request for parcel number V2140A4A1 for the commercial zone, from the commercial zone to the highway resort zone. Alan,
Now, that is Jack's piece, right?
that is Jack's
And that's
piece.
the whole piece?
Nothing but the
Seems
piece.
like it, yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to kick around that. If she's 100% right, then yeah, well,
I'm sure she is.
It's
then I guess the whole piece.
fairly similar.
Some of the restrictions I think are a little different, but
Yeah.
other than that, the uses I think are the
The
same.
setbacks,
Setbacks.
the landscaping requirements, the trails in the front. There's a lot of other restrictions, that may affect that piece. If you can do it in commercial, leave it in commercial, it's there. But right now, if somebody was to buy it as an RV park, couldn't do it anyways. So you'd have to rezone it again. So,
Unless you conflate the
yeah, unless we added it in, which would take public hearing and changing the ordinance again to do that. But if you can do it in commercial,
So it would be beneficial to some of the commercial.
Well,
Some of those stricter setback requirements.
go ahead, I can answer that
Alan?
after.
it looks to me like you ought to get your ordinances out and read them and see
Yeah.
exactly before you, before we move on this.
I don't wanna wait.
Well, you don't wanna wait, but you don't want to get something you don't want either.
Yeah.
And I think you better be sure, cause it's hard, it's not gonna be easy to change it back. Or it's not as easy, let's put it
Not
that
as
way.
easy, but the potential of having both one section commercial and one, the other part,
Yeah, you can't do that
you know,
on one side
highway
property.
resort, that is a.
without an overlay.
I don't know how that would work, Jack, splitting a property in half, unless you
Sold half.
unless you also divided the property, at the same time, and, yeah, I would take some time and look, unless you're sure, we'll make a recommendation today, but if you're not sure that you really want the zone change, I don't know that.
I don't want the zone changed, but. Can a surveyor go up there knowing those restrictions and what to do and be able to? get
Alan.
along with it?
Go ahead, Alan.
If we recommended approval to do this,
Yeah.
gives you 2 weeks till council meeting
Yeah,
to
okay.
research that and either pull it or go through with it.
Oh, let's go through this, if you guys do recommend it. And then the question I have is, I'm not 100% clear. Now, I can't do all these on it, but get in hotels and motels, but what about single little units, like I can show you a picture of one, but I can't do cabins or something like smaller.
You can do a brewery,
Places.
No.
you can do, let me look.
Monica, do you have his email address? Jack's?
I'm talking about for a motel.
Jack, if you'll get with me after the meeting and give me your email, I will email you both of the zones and exactly what they say in each zone. And then over the next 2 weeks before city council, you can read through those, you can see the differences for yourself, and then you can either proceed or you can withdraw it before the council meeting.
Just,
I like
you
that.
wanna pull it up and we can look right now.
Alright,
Shouldn't be too.
okay.
Is this property that he's selling?
No, he's not selling it.
Okay.
Not that I know of.
Well, he may, but
He
may or
may.
may not,
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, they're not buying the whole parcel? I mean, I don't
Well, that's what I
understand-
say, we don't
I
know.
don't understand what his problem is. If that's a whole parcel,
I
if
think,
he's not selling the whole parcel or doesn't wanna sell the whole parcel, then he'll have to have it resurveyed and re-deeded.
yeah, I think
Correct.
that he's just concerned that maybe this is not the change that he wants for sure.
Well,
Yeah, if I get 2 weeks to, we go through it and if I can just bail out in 2 weeks, can I show you what these folks want to do? And you can do anything to do with this zone or not?
I would say, yeah, let's look at it.
Yeah, you could, yeah, if you would like,
This is what they want to put in. I'm gonna pass that down. It's about 600 square feet, you know, and they wanna put a bunch of trees, they wanna turn it into this.
they wanna do, cabins.
Yeah, just like that. They're about 600 square feet, they're kinda ugly.
So,
But,
Fishbowl cabin, I like
yeah,
that.
but they're really pretty. They're gonna put
Mhm.
trees and little bridges and streams and all that stuff in there. Would something like that fly in that zone?
Flood zone?
It'd probably have to be in a highway resort zone to do it, but I don't know that it's,
I don't,
He's asking for.
Let-
You could probably, I don't know what, well, you could do the small, well, the RV park did it though, on their small cabins.
Getting back to your tiny houses again, guys.
yeah, but those aren't residents though. Those are just,
No, but it's still, the tiny houses are rental type property.
Yeah, and that's what these would be.
We don't have that use in either zone.
yeah,
so
that,
That's why he's trying to change the zone.
But it's not in the highway.
It's not
resort
in
zone.
either.
And unless,
to have the cabins, I don't know that.
Short,
Look at the definition of a motel. You go to chapter 1, which is definitions, and look at the definition of a motel, and it will be a cabin.
what is it?
Group of individual sleeping units. That's a cabin.
Doesn't say they're connected, does it?
Correct. They don't have to be.
I just want to ask, are you gonna be?
That would be hard in commercial, wouldn't it, or highway? resort?
No, we're not taking any actions on that today.
When do I need, because I've actually been with several meetings here, over the same thing. Can I get a date this time, because obviously each time I come in, it's the same old
We're-
thing, and then we'll look into it.
No,
we'll discuss it.
we're discussing it today.
We'll discuss it today, but we won't be recommending or,
Okay,
we
so
won't making-
when would I begin, that I can have a solid date that we can rediscuss them?
See, talk
Yeah.
about the signs.
yes.
So, can I
Go
answer
ahead,
that?
Sean.
Okay, the sign ordinance has been rewritten. We're working on finishing that, so we will have a final document that we can put to a public hearing. Hopefully, that will be by next month, because the document is pretty much finished. We just want a little bit more time to work on it.
Is there any?
So it's been rewritten from 24 pages, I've got it to about 4 pages. So there's some changes. There's some changes in it, and we've condensed it and
Is there a
simplified it.
preliminary, when we're allowed to look at it while you're?
Yes. Yeah, as we're discussing it, and then we can properly email those drafts out. It should be available through the city. But we will have a final document for the public hearing will also be available when we have that, and that would be at least 2 weeks before our meeting.
And they'll mail that to us, or? I mean,
You have to request that,
You have to request. it.
yeah, from the city.
And you say, in 2 weeks?
So,
All right, so
I really like
yeah.
this thing.
Moving back to the, yes, Jack, they would be able to do that if you rezoned it to the highway resort. Because under the definition of motel, building or groups of buildings to accommodate transient groups. Alan?
The one thing you need to be aware of is you're gonna be in the same boat as the RV park over here. You're gonna have state-approved sewer system. Until we get a sewer system in.
I just gonna run fight, but.
No, don't worry.
Yeah, if it's over, what, how many thousand gallons they have to get it from the
I
state?
don't remember.
Yeah, any large developments will have to get state approval. So they're gonna have to estimate the amount of water and the amount of flow. And then once that is established, any large amounts will go to the state and you'll be monitored by the state. If it doesn't meet that amount, you'll be controlled by the local health department. They're gonna set your standards on what you have to have for a sewer system.
I see. So, yeah, it could be, so it's not gonna be a septic yet.
Well,
That
it
depends,
could-
that,
It could be.
that depends on what they say. So they're gonna dictate those terms. They're gonna do soil studies and whatever else, and they're gonna say, this is what you have to do. So,
Well, I'm excited.
all right.
so you can do.
Any other questions about what's
can-
that?
You can only do that in highways resort
Correct. Cannot,
because of hotel motel.
yes. Yeah.
So should we approve, or recommend approval of this onto the council then?
It definitely falls within the area
That's what he's.
that we've designated for it, so. And he's already commercial, it's not a huge change.
Well, I'll move that we recommend for approval this A rezone is to a highway resort.
Alan's given us a motion to recommend approval for item number A, the rezone. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Dina seconds. Any further discussion? All right, we'll vote. Alan?
Yes.
Yes.
Jean, yes. Cameron, yes. Sean?
Yes.
Dina?
Yes.
All right. Moving on to B, or sorry, 6. It's almost a B. Discussion of possible recommendation to approve or deny proposed ordinance amending VULU Chapter 8, Section 8.2, and other sections,
And
With
8.11.
8.11. Yep.
Did anybody change them?
I thought you did.
Which ones?
So I made,
8.2 and 8.11.
yes.
Conditional.
The,
So the 8.2 we discussed and on our last work meeting was like 8.2 through 8.10. We discussed that at our last work meeting, and Dino took those
okay, what did
and
we
wrote
do?
those up. And then I took 8.11 and wrote that up.
8.2 is permit required.
Which document are we looking at here?
So if you pull up the one
Chapter
that's red,
This
I
one?
don't have a red one. How do you get a red one?
Doc out of there. Dean's chapter 8 revision. Number 3, right? That's what we're looking
Okay.
at.
8.2.
now she modified more than 8.2.
But that's all we're approving.
8.2 and 8.11 is the only thing we can,
Right.
Right, so we could approve the changes to 8.2.
Thing you redid 8.11,
Yeah, where's that one at?
way down.
but these are only her changes. Did you have any changes in here?
Way down. Sheesh.
I'm not seeing any changes on the limited commercial habitation.
8.11.
Yeah, the changes aren't showing up here that I'm seeing.
Listen, don't have any changes on 11. Did you get?
All right, so if you go down to, the one that we're looking at is this ordinance 2018, I think. Yep, that one.
Okay, so chapter, get back to that one.
So this is the ones we're looking at,
It was,
that one.
2018, chapter 22. Going down. So, thought. Dang it. Let me see, was it?
It's that
I've
one.
got it, but we're trying to find his.
So I had a chapter 18 there a minute ago. Or that 2018.
2018,
I got
22.
Dina's chapter review. Chapter 8,
Can you find it?
yeah. So we're looking at
Yeah, you
11.
got it.
We're,
Revocation of conditional use permit.
Definitely.
No, 8.11 is, yeah, that is revocation of the conditional use.
it's
I don't-
8.13 in this one.
8.13 in this one, I don't, it must have had to been renumbered. Go to 8.13, they renumbered it. Must have added a section to it.
So is this what you changed?
The limited commercial habitation, yes. Did you find that to pull up on the screen, Monica?
It's not 8.13, I think it's 8.11.
It's in the other document. It's not in chapter, the one that says chapter 8, it's in the ordinance.
Yeah,
It's in the ordinance one,
In
not the one that says chapter 8.
Yeah,
Not-
there's,
Not Dina's comments.
That's the only chapter 8 she's got on here.
No, there's another one, because I actually found it.
It's ordinance 2018.
Yeah. 22?
I don't know.
22, it says 8 and 22 is the one you sent out to us.
Yeah, I don't know why it
2018,
says,
Chapters 8 and 22.
that's the one, right there.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't have this in it before?
We did have the limited commercial habitation in there before.
You're looking for revocation of conditional use?
Keep going, keep going.
It's 813.
On this document.
I think we might have to revisit the conditional use part of it, because I think it got posted wrong. It was supposed to be posted chapter 8, and she posted it as 8.2.
Yeah.
So we might have to just revisit that one, so that it gets
Okay.
properly noticed.
So, since we're here, what did you change?
Yeah.
But the this
813.
limited commercial habitation, we could make a recommendation on it, because it is listed in the, it's listed, I mean, she changed the number, but it's listed specifically in our agenda as part of it, the limited commercial habitation.
So what'd you change?
So in 813, the big changes were, before we had restricted the commercial habitation to 1 bedroom, 1 kitchen, and 1 bathroom. That was all that was allowed for,
Just what we were thinking about, probably when we done it, was mom and pop type business.
yeah, and that would be for like single or couples. So the big change we made into this was freeing that up so that they can have a family, a bigger residence. There was restrictions on the size that the bedroom could be,
Is this one that had the decibels?
the what?
The decibels of noise that could be, or is that's a different?
No, that's a different one. That's a different one.
Okay. That's what I'm working through.
That's the one you've been working on, yeah.
So the way this is written is just to make it so that we have,
To allow it
to
for,
allow up to a family, or
to allow a family,
as
yes,
opposed to just 1 or 2.
correct. It's
Can I
still,
make a statement on this?
yeah,
It's saved our ass. I mean, it's made us what we are. Because if I'd moved here and had to have a house too, I'd never made it. You know? And so, and if you look at New York City, you look at Boston, you go to the old part of town, there's the business, and upstairs, there's their house. You know, and I don't know why we fight this, you know, because I sure the hell don't want to have to fall all day getting the damn car and drive somewhere. It's hard enough just getting through that door, you know, but I sure the hell wouldn't be sitting my butt on the island every winter if I had a house. So I just really say that I think it's a good way to go.
yeah, and then the other big change we made was, that I put in here was the permit had to be renewed every year. And I changed that just to have it automatic no, there's no renewal. You don't need to renew it unless you're changing who's living there. You know, if you're gonna stay living there as a family, that's fine. If you're gonna move out and have a manager live there, then you would have to change the permit at that point. But as far as long as no changes are made, the permit's good, unless it's abandoned.
So is it still a conditional use or not then?
So, yes, limited commercial habitation is still listed in the commercial and residential zones as a conditional use. So they would have to come in and renew their conditional use permit, but they don't have to renew their home occupation permit, their commercial habitation permit. There was some other things in there that I took out. They had things in there,
So
you know,
is this one,
requiring
is
certain
this
things.
one here the one that you redone?
Correct. This is the redone.
Okay. So we need to,
From 8:13.
813, correct.
Nothing else was changed.
I did, yes, it was only 813.
8:13 through
Just
8:13,
813,
7.
yeah,
But it's just
8.13.7.
8.13.
And then we amended chapter 22. That's why it says and chapter 22, just because there was, in chapter 22, limited commercial habitation had a paragraph description there in it. So I amended that as well, just to refer them to this section. So there wouldn't be any conflicts. That's why it says in the chapter 22.
So can we approve 8:13? Or do you wanna wait and do them both, or?
That I don't know. Yeah, she posted, it looks like she posted the section that you worked on wrong, Dina. She posted that as section 8.2,
Yeah, I mean,
and it was
the whole.
it was all of chapter 8 down to 813.
Yeah.
So I
Should
think,
have been listed as just chapter 8, so we could amendments to chapter 8.
Yeah.
It would have been fine.
so, and I should have caught that, but I didn't catch that. So I don't know that we can
See this one.
recommend that part. Do we want to recommend part of it, or do we want to just,
Let's just
Wait.
finish it off, get it posted right and do it
Yeah.
all at once.
okay,
Cities, the council's not gonna wanna go through and do bits and pieces.
yeah, all right,
Is
I'm
there
good with
anybody waiting? for
Yeah,
this?
that was my
I
question.
don't think so, is there?
I think the conditional use permit part was the more important.
part of that. You don't know of anyone that's waiting for? I know of one place that wants to do it, but they're not close.
Giving, yeah, but I
There-
don't know of anybody waiting.
Me neither. Other than it'd make Andy's life a little bit easier next year.
I move we table this number 7, 6, excuse me, until next month. We have a chance to post it correctly and, go over that, first part of that revisions.
I have a motion to table this item so it can be reposted for another public hearing. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Dina seconds. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, we'll move to the next one. A discussion possible recommendation to approve or deny proposed ordinance 18-10 to reopen chapter 21, the resort zone, which is originally designated for Zion River Resort.
Did we have anybody working on this one?
Cameron?
I worked on this one. So one of the things that we talked about, which is not here either, one of the things that we talked about last meeting was that possibly combining elements of 29 in with it, into 21.
We don't have any of
I
this,
did do that, but
but
it's
we don't have it here.
it's not here. And I did not get that done in time to be reposted with,
So unless, has anybody got any, do we have any ideas, or were you just working on it, get it ready, or?
Yeah, some of the things that I added in there was, density restrictions. The density restrictions, so many units per acre. And I had made that the same as the resort that we have now.
In 29, we had that a little bit less, I think, didn't we?
I don't know, I don't remember you
now.
guys'.
It's been-
I think it was
Yes.
16 units per acre. 29 said 16, and I think that's what I moved over.
We
I don't-
rolled that around quite a bit, and I think 16 is what we came up with. I think they have, it's either 18 or, they have a little bit more than what we moved over in 29.
So it'd be less dense
Less dense, yeah,
if we kept the standard from 29.
yeah.
And then,
And the reason we did that is because they said they were a little crowded.
okay. And then we, also kept things like the fencing, to keep it secluded, some sort of boundary was maintained in there. Setbacks from the highway were in there as well.
Yeah, but they should basically be the same thing, I think.
Is pretty well the same thing as, chapter 22 on those. I honestly don't remember it all, and I don't,
So we're gonna table this until the next meeting then?
yeah, and then we'll
Same thing.
get it reposted with all the changes.
So here's the question I have though. We have chapter 13, which covers all the things you guys are talking about, in regards to, recreational vehicle and travel trailers. That's the only other thing that's added into that zone, really, is RV use. And we have a whole chapter on RV use and density and everything else. Is there any?
What, all right, we've got chapter 13 is what?
13, recreational vehicle and travel trailer parks.
Now, is that the RV park zone for over here?
These are the standards that were written because of the RV park came in.
Okay,
Because there wasn't standards. So then these were written to, if another park came in, we would do this. But then RV parks, that resort zone was closed, which then all of a sudden eliminated the ability to do any RV parks,
yeah.
which made this useless until.
All right, so we got
Yeah.
13 that were,
So it's already in there.
but what was we gonna add to it?
Add to which one?
13.
There's nothing we need, it's
We
already
just need to
there.
reopen that resort zone so that can
And
be-
so I'm talking about 21, it already has standards for that one use that would be different than commercial use back there, so it's already done. We have camping, the camping stuff would be nice to add in, but we don't need to
Is
right
it
away.
in 21?
Camping,
Yeah,
let me go back again. That's why I hate this, is I can't look at,
Can't do two things at once.
Yeah,
yeah.
conditional uses, chapter 21, would be recreational vehicle resort / campground, is that what y'all looking for?
Yeah, so it adds
I don't think
campground
it is
in
that.
there.
I think that's why we were looking at combining.
well, it seemed like that's why we were talking about taking some of the stuff out of the old 29 that didn't make it
Mm-hmm.
and adding it into, but was we putting it in 13 or 21?
21 is what I thought.
That is the question. What do we want to do? Is it necessary to put it into 21? 21 is just the zone. I don't like to convolute a zone by saying you have this and all these regulations. Those should be in a separate place that says, these are the uses,
So is
and then these are the standards over here. And then you could relate it to any zone that you end up putting that use in. So if we end up later down the road putting camping or RV into commercial, let's say, then it would relate back to chapter 13.
Okay, so which one?
I'm sorry, you're saying that
Chapter 13.
No, there's not.
Standards for permitting RVs outside the camping resort zone. Third,
Outside of the camping resort zone,
Which we-
not in the camping.
but we don't have a camping resort zone, and we're not talking about opening a camping resort zone.
Right,
So this would apply to a resort zone.
right, but what I'm saying is there is nothing in chapter
The
13.
title of that is recreational vehicle and travel trailer parks. Yes,
No, there's parks that's not there.
parks. It says it in my
Recreational vehicles and travel trailers.
parks.
Yeah, you have a
You
different
might
copy.
have an old one
No, I haven't, okay. I put in the
that says parks right
portion
here.
of the ordinance.
See,
All right,
where's the
so-
camera?
So
Parks.
what Sean
Sorry.
is saying is that he would like to take if I'm understanding you, Sean, what you're saying is you would like to take some of that stuff, like density, hours of noise, hours of operation, quiet time, things like that, and you would like to put that in 13, and then leave 21 with just maybe buffer zones and things that would be applicable to only the zone, not the use in the zone.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So zone should just say, this is what a zone is. It shouldn't say, and because we're having this use, we're going to add standards for this use here. The standard should be in a separate place, so
Okay.
you could use that in multiple.
That way would make it easier if we ever wanted to add that use to a separate zone, we could just add the use, the zone, I see.
And then refer it.
So then what you're suggesting, I think because we started with 2 things, now we're into 3 things. Basically, what you're saying is we wanna take the elements of 29 and not put them in 21, but put them into 13, and just keep 21 as this skeleton frame of the resort. It's the resort zone, and then everything applies that we put in 13, from 13 and 29. Is that right?
Yeah, that's,
Yeah. Well, I don't care where it goes
Well, we had
after that.
originally
The
talked about
skeleton
adding
is
29 to
good.
21 to make that, but
Right.
we're just
But I
introducing
think,
13 now.
I think
so-
it's the wrong, yeah, I think it's the wrong approach. And in the past,
I
zones
agree.
have been overrun, like chapter 22, a lot of that stuff really doesn't refer to a zone, it refers to the uses in that zone. And we need to be able to pull those out and just say, this is the zone, if you want those uses, this is what you can
here's
do.
the standard for the use.
And then we can write separate standards in another place that will refer to those uses. So we've got commercial and we've got highway resort zone, and they have similar uses, but each one of them say the same exact thing. They're redundant on the standards that they have packed into that zone. It should be in one place. Especially since everything is commercial use or conditional use, that's where it should be, is under conditional use stuff, not in the zone itself.
Okay, I see that.
Sorry to kind of
No,
throw
no.
a wrench in it again, but I think what we have now, the only real thing that we were doing with chapter 21 was opening it up, which meant we were taking out the location, the tax ID number, and we're saying if a location meets these criteria of being low-lying and natural features and all this other stuff, it could qualify. It doesn't mean that we're going to allow stuff in there, because they're all conditional use.
I thought we were also going to address that very, very restrictive requirement for
Mhm.
part in that as well.
Because then
mean,
we'd be talking other locations. At this point, it is very limiting to what pieces of property could do that.
I think we established that there's basically no place left that meets all those requirements.
Very few places.
There's very few. There's about 3 parcels that would fit. But the idea is to open it, and then if
So
we
can
get
that be done,
feedback,
or did that not get posted correctly?
it's posted correctly.
Yes, we could pass that on.
Well, you're not ready to.
I would say that there is standards in here for, for RVs in here, but these are not really standards for a campground.
That was one thing we did when we did 29. We did not make any provisions at all for a campground.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so these aren't really provisions for a campground, so I would prefer
We need to do that separately.
that we don't push on a resort zone if we don't have the standards prepared for it.
Well, I think we ought to make sure we got them before we try to push it on.
Yes.
So we got a little bit of, maybe a whole lot of work to do.
I don't think there's a lot of work to do. I took a lot of the standards, which were, like Sean said, from 29, which are standards for a campground, and I put them back into 21 when I worked on it. What we'll need to do is take those back out of 21 and
Put
move
'em in
into
13.
13. And then make 21 just about the zone.
So tonight is about just, do we open this zone up or not? That's really the question. That's the only thing that's on the table is, we took that location issue and took out the tax ID number. That's really all we're talking about tonight, that we can approve or not. So I'm saying it's not a big deal to say, hey, let's recommend it to the council. Do we want this open or not? Let them decide. If they don't even want it open, why are we wasting
Yeah,
our
there's no
time?
such wasting time on it.
So that's why I'm saying, look, if we want to recommend that opening, let's do it. If we don't, then we might be working on something that could be shot down anyways in the end. So I'm saying send it on just so we get an indication of, should we do all that extra work on a camping resort?
Well,
Or on camping standards? Should we be mixing, 29 and 21? Should we put it in 13? All those questions are after we know whether or not it's important. And I have no idea, because I'm not on the council. Leave it up to them.
well, the council sent us this zone. They said they want this zone, or they want a camping zone. And they gave us two recommendations, either to
29,
amend 29 or to
reopen.
reopen 21. And then, because 29 had undergone some scrutiny in the past, they said, we decided to go with 21.
Well, and the one good thing about 21 as opposed to 29, is 29 is an RV resort. I mean, and that's basically what it's made for. It did not address campgrounds or anything else like that. There is a little mention of it in there, but there's no descriptions, no ordinances for it, or, no guidelines for it or anything. So I think we'd probably be just far ahead to open up 13 or 21, whichever one you want to do it in. Take whatever we want out of 29 and then add those other things in there. I think 21 pretty well covers most of what we want to have, but it has the campgrounds in it also, besides just an RV resort.
Yes.
I mean, because we discussed quite extensively about a KOA type campground. I mean, and you don't see them very much anymore, but there are a lot of people who would like to have a tenting type or someplace they could pull an RV or whatever, just if you don't believe it, put the creek. But I mean, and I think it'd be a good idea to get those all ready before we pass it up. So it's gonna take a lot more work.
I think I'm of the opinion that we do what Sean's saying and get it open, and then see where the council wants to go with it. They give us some
Well-
feedback and say, we want you to, look at this versus
But just like Cameron said, they already
They
passed
already,
it down
well,
and said they want us to.
Do they want it
Then
just
let's
open?
push-
they want a
let's-
campground.
Push it, I mean, it's been posted, we've discussed it. The only change we made was the location thing. It opens it up to just a few properties. Do we need to make more changes? Yeah, but is this a step in the right direction? We don't truly know until it gets past council.
So
It's fine with me.
So
But I mean, I think
and we
whether,
can work on stuff.
whether we get it
after that.
approved or not, I think we need to get working on those understandings. and stuff,
Absolutely,
you know,
I'm saying,
If it's passed.
let's just do it step by step. This is the first step, and let's just continue on. But it would be nice to have hey, you're headed in the right direction, and let's continue on.
And I felt like the climate coming from council is they wanna see stuff coming on a consistent basis, even if we're not, completely have everything written and dotted and.
What I like about having it in front of council, you get a different idea from the public, what they're feeling as well. So, public input is great. That's why we open them up as public meetings. So this might give a chance for this specific issue to be addressed again in another forum. And that gives us feedback for what we need to work on as well.
Give us one.
I want to make it,
If you'll make it quick, please.
if you pass this without standards, and town council passes it, someone can come in and rezone their property to this, and they don't have to meet any standards, because they were zoned with no standards.
So
They only have to meet the standards that are in place at the time they get their zone.
If they get their
Sean.
zone change.
completely agree with that statement. Yet, we have a process in place called conditional uses. And those are our standards that every business must meet and every conditional use must meet. And they're pretty stringent right now. So,
Well-
there's already a process in place. Do we want to further clarify that process for a particular business such as camping? Yes. That only helps the campground guy, the person coming in saying, do I want to do this? Is this feasible? It's going to show them it's feasible. Otherwise, they don't know because it's so general right now with our conditional uses. So we want to simplify it for them. That's why we use standards, not because we want to regulate.
Alan?
Well, I'm kind of leaning a little bit towards what Gene said, because even though we do have conditional uses, we don't have a guideline, and we can't just pull them out of the air to regulate with.
I agree with that. That they would be free to do many things, but in order to obtain this zone, they would have to go through a zone change. And council has very broad and they have a lot of authority when it comes to zone change. So they could deny a zone change and not allow it.
Well, that's possible.
Now-
That's true.
So, and they have a lot of authority to deny that zone change.
I think on top of that, this zone is extremely limited already on what you can rezone to. I mean,
On
you have-
where?
Yeah, where you can do it. Like you said, there's only a couple of properties even available that could apply for it. There's so much written in there on where it has to be and the vegetation, and it used to be agriculture. I mean, there's so much in there already that limits what could be rezoned that I don't think it's a threat at this point, personally.
One more point. This is the zone that created one of the nation's best RV parks. Okay? There's a standard, commercial, you would say, standard already set. They've gotta meet the bar, otherwise they're not gonna get customers. So we've gotta remember that there's more involved than just what rules we're going to throw out there. The market will dictate that they have to build one just as good as that, otherwise it's not gonna fly.
Well,
If-
kind of, cause they're full all the time, but.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. We need
Yeah.
all the niches covered.
I was gonna say, if your RV park is $1 cheaper than the one across the street, even though it's the best, that's where we're gonna go.
Many people.
A lot of people.
I think they'll all be full.
With all that being said, I actually think we should do the standards before we do the zone. That's my personal opinion. I don't see why open a zone that the council will likely vote to not allow to be rezoned to it because they don't have sufficient standards, or maybe they will and then they have broad standard. I just don't see why to create a zone without the standards for one of the major aspects of the zone. And as far as the location, it is really restrictive. There's very few places. I don't know that, I mean, we could try and see what council had to say about the location. I don't know if they would be happy with that or not.
Well, when we were looking at it last month, we decided to broaden the locations because the ones we had were so restrictive, there was nothing left that would meet the criteria, and so we had decided to broaden that, and I think we'd be better off just table it till next month and, give us a chance to work on those standards, and then we can pass the whole thing up. I don't think we've got nobody waiting for it, do we?
No. Not you, you're doing a motel.
Well, that's the big option. Except that I think it'd be in poor taste to put another RV park in and move on any competition.
That would be in poor taste. I think you'd have Ron fighting you, but I don't know that it'd be poor taste. I'm up for any motion, but
I'll make a motion that we just recommend this on.
Sean's
To the
made a
council.
motion to recommend approval of ordinance 2018-10 to city council. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Gene second. Any further discussion on this? Gene. All right, we'll have a vote. Alan?
I don't think so.
Alan, no.
Yes.
Gene, yes. Cameron? No. Sean?
Yes.
Dina?
I'll have to say no. Okay.
Nice.
I mean, I'm not understanding this, so I know.
Okay.
I mean, it's too many things, we're tossing around.
Can
All right.
we make a motion to table this till our next meeting with work on it, or what do we do? Because we still gotta work on it and get it ready to go.
Yeah, we still need to work on it. And honestly, I think, well, this is because I'm biased because I did it, right? So take that with a grain of salt. I think all it needs to be done is it needs to be renumbered and then it's ready.
Okay? Can you give copies to us without this?
I thought that they had already been sent to you.
Well, they're not on here. And
They're not on here. I thought they had been sent to your emails.
And they may possibly have been, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I got it.
Did you get it?
Email on here, not a regular email.
I haven't got a regular email.
So that's why I say it came to the cloud email,
Is this what you're talking
not
about?
the other one,
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
Is that the one that Is that the one we're going over right now? This is the one that this is the one that, that's the one that I changed. That's the one that that's
Is
the
that
one
the
that
new
got,
one or the old one?
that's the new one. That's the one that,
Do we have access to it?
On your email.
see if it's on your email, I don't know.
How do you get the email? Hey,
Just hit this big button over here,
I did.
right there.
So,
So,
was there a motion?
Okay, now, so do we, how do we compare this to the one that we have already? Pull the other one up and,
I'll have to pull the other one up. I didn't even know that 13 had, I knew it had stuff about RVs, but I didn't know that it was about RV parks.
Yeah, stuff was pulled out of it and put back, and so we'll have to look exactly what's in there, but that's where it should be. It's a separate place than the rest. Now, there are individuals that would be interested in those standards for this type of zone, once we get it done, but it's still gonna be a while before they obtain their land. So, if we continue to work on it.
well, let's.
Isn't the BLM trying to sell that piece up there by the BMX track, or have they
Yeah.
already sold it
What we're talking about.
for a campground?
They will be putting it up for auction specifically for hoping, because they don't have any control once they sell it, to find somebody that will do camping there.
Well, and that's one of the reasons we need to kinda get this going.
But that would still take quite a while for
if-
that sale to happen.
If that's what they wanna do, then our current definition of 21 where it would not fit there.
No, it wouldn't. That's why I say we had talked about changing some of the location
So we would
requirements.
need to change that location.
So, here's the other issue I do have with all these different zones. Basically are the same thing. Why do we have so many different commercial type zones? There should be highway and there should be recreational type uses zones, and that's it. But we have 3, 4, 5 different types of zones that are
Three
related to commercial that that basically have the same thing, except for somebody wants more vegetation in front, or landscaping or trails through it. And so even if we go back to let's open this up, maybe that's still not the right way to go either.
Maybe we add the use
Maybe
into
we
a
add the
different zone.
uses to just one zone and go with a commercial zone that allows all these other stuff, and just say, this is where commercial is going to be. And then we address the location topic, and we address the zone itself and what's allowed in it.
Well, that'll give us a whole month. I mean, yeah, it'll give us about 2 days before the next meeting we can look that over and see, and maybe that might be the best way to go. But right now, I can't say one way or the other, because I'm not familiar enough with the others to.
Right.
I think the only reason to have a separate zone would be the only reason to do it is that gives the town much more leeway on what things can go where.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason to do that. Whether that's
Leeway
appropriate
or
or not.
control.
Control.
But we have that by means of denying a zone change.
Correct. Yep.
think the work we have to do here is to take what has been done and simplify it to something that people can understand.
So what
and
we
can
need,
work on.
we need to get through this stuff, get our ideas and stuff pooled together, and then if we get it ready by next, do we advertise another public hearing for it? So we can act on it?
If we have a final document, yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll have to have it within a couple of weeks, so.
So did you already ask for a motion?
So, not yet. So, with this 21, I think it would probably be easier just to add, I'm with Sean, why don't we leave it closed and add it to the highway resort zone? Which would solve the location problem. It would put it in an area that has been generally accepted by the community as
Leave 21 closed?
leave 21 closed and put this in the highway resort zone.
And rename highway resort zone since it has the word highway in it. And it refers
Yeah.
to its
Well,
line. I mean,
yeah,
that's
well-
really why it's
I
there.
was gonna say, we was gonna rename it to resort zone anyway, instead of highway resort.
And we could do that, it's tomato, I don't care about names. It's all about the
But it-
description.
You could eliminate,
That's why the resort zone is.
It would be
named.
confusion. Resort zone was far earlier than highway resort zone.
Okay.
So, if that's what we think would be the best way to go, do we want to send a motion to city council not approving 21, and then they can make that decision? Not recommending that they not reopen it. And then they can make that decision of whether they want a new zone or they would like to add it into an existing zone.
I like that a lot better.
Then we send them something, they can
We get the input?
give us the input back. We can still work on the standards, because either way, they're gonna need the standards, we're gonna need the standards, and then it's up to city council.
well, there's a lot of things in 21 that are good.
There is, and so I think we should just let the council make that decision. So we can either table it, or, in my opinion, we can either table or we can recommend that they deny it. And then it's all in their plate, since they get paid the big bucks, right? Actually, they don't get paid anything, but
My own personal feeling is I think we ought to table it till next meeting. And that also gives us a chance to go to this other meeting and get some input from them.
I went to all the meetings, so.
Yeah,
Well, I did too, but we still don't have their summary of it.
Yeah, I'm open to either way, whether you want to table it or if we want to recommend a denial, I will entertain either motion.
And I'll make a recommendation that we, deny the opening of chapter 21 to the, town council.
We have a recommendation to deny the opening of chapter 21. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Dina seconds. We'll vote. Alan? Still considering? Jean?
Yes.
Cameron? Yes. Sean?
Yes.
Yes.
Dina, yes. Alan?
No,
Okay. All right.
Let's work on it differently.
All right, so if you guys, now that you have the chapter 21, Alan, I can show you how to send that to your regular email if you want it.
okay. Well, if I've got it on here, then I can use it.
And then I think we should pull look that over and look at the standards that I had pulled from 29 and see if you think we need to add any, subtract any.
Well, I've still got a copy of the 29 revisions at the house, so.
Yeah.
Are we still talking throwing the standards into 13?
And then we'll put the standards into 13. I think that's the place for them to be, is in 13.
Campbell's gonna work on that. Cameron, you've already done one on that.
Yeah, so we just wanna take the stuff that I put in 21 and sent to you
Yeah,
is what I felt was the key things and the most important things for a campground RV standard. Not saying that they're the greatest things, but
Give us a start.
that's a starting point.
No work left to do.
And I'd like to get those prepared so that the next meeting, we can make a recommendation on those. And then, depending on what city council does with 21, we can look at amending chapter 22 to include campgrounds.
I gotta start printing this stuff. It's too hard to compare.
I'm glad we didn't have anything to do.
All right, so then we'll move to the next item on the agenda. Where are we at? Discussion and possible recommendation to approve or deny proposed ordinance. Recommendation to approve or deny proposed ordinance 2018-14, amending VULU 1617-24 and various subsections found within which require updating to meet current town needs and allow for affordable housing. All right, go ahead, Sean.
Is it 14 or 15?
It's,
Ordinance for,
I don't know, because it says 14 on the agenda, but it says 15 on the ordinance.
Okay.
So it's probably 15.
Well, I just wondered if I was doing my magic fingers again.
No, that's it. That's the one.
is that probably posted then?
That one was posted properly. I think it
The
is.
agenda?
Yeah.
Okay, just
It's
the
posted
ordinance number is.
Just the ordinance,
Because
just,
what's written on there is, but the ordinance title is okay, it just, that needs to be
Glasses.
adjusted, right?
yeah, because,
Okay.
it's saved as 14, but then in the document it says 15. I don't know what happened there.
So
Typo.
as written, it says, just to catch the public up on it,
Yeah. Right.
in 3 different zones, and did we get 22 added to that?
We would probably need to add 22 to that.
Yeah, as a motion.
16,
Okay,
17, 24.
so in each zone where it mentions
Mhm.
single-family dwellings, and this is just for the public, it says, it used to give a,
Yeah, it says, what it says at the end is not intended, it says permitted use, single-family dwelling, not intended for short-term rentals, short-term lease or rentals prohibited. Minimum square foot of house must be 1,000 square feet. That's what it used to say.
and
That's what it used to say.
the last sentence, it was changed to minimum square feet of home must meet all requirements of the International Residential, is that supposed to say building code or just code?
Just code.
I think it's just
It's
code.
just- Okay, I thought it was building code. I think that's great as is. The only question I have is, we had talked about removing that first part about short-term rental. I don't care if it's in there one more month, but we're gonna have to revisit the same thing and take that out, because we already passed, council already passed, we recommended council pass the short-term rental,
For new subdivisions.
that, and the, residential hosting facility thing, so this is gonna be irrelevant. Do we do it now or do we do it later? I don't care. So, if we do it,
I think you have to do it later, right? Otherwise, we table this again.
Yeah, if we do it late,
because we continued it on, we can't make that change,
I think that would be a fairly substantial change.
okay? But I would make a recommendation not tying to this, but that we make that change and then have it, or ready to post and have public hearing for that next time.
I would agree, because
But,
The only question I got is this, the international residential code goes clear down to 250 square feet. All right, what are
approximately,
you gonna do when somebody wants to move in a winter trailer? One of those little tiny trailers.
Foundations
You
too.
cannot turn them down.
we could require, and we'd have to look at our codes, but and I believe we do require already that it be put on a permanent,
Well, yeah,
Fixed
but that's not a
foundation.
big problem.
so they'd have to, disassemble it and put skirting on it and attach it to a foundation. I mean, yes, doing this, you would not be able to stop them from doing that. Other than you could require them to permanently affix it.
Yeah, but that's minimal.
Yeah. Some strapping and a bolt.
Last meeting, I was pretty up in the air on this, but I think the thing that kind of has cemented me into thinking this is a good idea is the land still is not cheap. And for somebody to buy a very expensive piece of land so they can put a little tiny trailer just doesn't really mesh.
Doesn't compute.
Most people are gonna buy the land so they can build a nice home.
I can see
It can happen, but
I can see it happening a little bit, that someone brings in something small and puts it there because they're only staying here in the winter. But they would be permanent until they decided to move in permanently or sell the property. I think that could happen. But I'm with you, that's gonna be the exception, not the rule.
I believe just the 1,000 square foot was just a unnecessary regulation, that why should we be penalizing people for wanting something that's maybe 800 square foot?
Well, the 8,000, or the 1,000 square foot was put in there essentially to keep trailers out.
Yeah,
Single wide trailers.
which can't be put in anyways. Can they?
Sure they can.
New
Can't
ones,
stop them.
new ones
ones?
could. New ones can. The old ones, no, but new ones, there's a date. Utah has a date. A date of manufacture after which.
I just don't want the decision to be made that we need to keep it at 1,000 because we're afraid of something. There's plenty of, I like to provide people options. This is just an option. 90-some% of people are going to build a regular sized home to fit their family, but maybe maybe they could start with a smaller one and then build on. If that happens, great, it gave them the option to do that.
How
Most
many-
of them are gonna build a regular sized
How
home.
many applications have we had in the last 5 years for less than 1,000?
In the last 2 years, there's been over 24 inquiries, applications and others. That's what,
Just inquiries or?
when I went in and talked to Misty and Chris, he said over the last couple of years, there's probably been a couple dozen
Well,
inquiries.
one location, which is an issue, has its own issues all on its own, but one location has had probably, you're right, probably 8 or 9 possible buyers until they find out.
There has to be 1,000 square feet.
But there's only been one house that they were 986 feet, and they had to add a foot along the wall to get over 1,000 feet.
Yeah. I swear Chris told me there's been 2 or 3 houses he's made bigger.
And, he may have talked to more people that want, I've heard a lot of people say they think our minimum should be 600 feet, that's a really good middle ground, and maybe Chris has talked to a lot more people about it than I have.
Well, and I don't see any problem with the minimum footage. I mean, especially when you have to have an acre of ground. The only problem with the little house is that it gives you a lot more weeds you gotta take care of.
put more cement around it though.
Yeah.
You grow that
Well-
well.
We're talking about the people that have an acre. Maybe we're talking about.
Yeah,
the
there,
people that
there
have
is
a
existing
half an
lots.
acre or a
Yeah,
acre,
and there are
and
some
they
lots,
want
but-
a 600 or 800 square foot home.
Well, even if you got away from new developed areas, I've been in a lot of places where they disturb very little of their acre and put a little house on it, and they only landscape 1,000 square feet, and they just leave the rest however it,
Natural.
whatever it does.
And
And
we build a lot of homes that way, even though they're bigger homes, but we still a minimal amount of disturbance,
yeah, like up, what's that?
especially Anasazi.
Anasazi, yeah.
Some of those places, yeah. it's-
So, while we're on this subject, I want to address an issue that was brought up by the public
Mm-hmm.
about home values. Who went to that training, do you remember what they said about home values?
That's not your property right. Your property right is not to maintain your value.
Yeah. So our job isn't to worry about those home values in that sense.
Yeah.
What's good for the community, is what we're supposed to do. What's about property rights and liberties, and that was from, I can't remember, it was Brian,
It's the,
Somebody that-
it's the property right.
property rights
Ombudsman,
ombudsman for
whatever.
the state.
He is.
And he's a lawyer of lawyers, I guess,
I don't know.
and his.
Talks like a lawyer.
Yeah, he was a lawyer. Anyways, his main focus is about property rights. I'm sure bringing up, I wish we had brought this up to him and asked him about it. Yes, we can set those minimums, but if somebody wanted to challenge them, they probably could and they probably would win. But if they're gonna build a small house, they probably don't have the money to do that.
Not necessarily.
Or they do have the money to do it, and why do we wanna put ourselves in that position? Are most people gonna build a regular size home? Yes. If you put it this way, as you have, it doesn't say a minimum, so they're gonna assume that the minimum is a regular sized house. Unless somebody really, really wants it, they're gonna do a smaller house. So I think just as it's written, I think we need to recommend it out. With the addition of 22, I think we can add that in because it's.
Yeah,
the
it's
same
also
thing.
listed in 22.
Not only affects property values, it affects the town tax base. You're reducing your property tax.
The only time taxes are important is if, or value of your house is important is about taxes. You want it low,
I know.
and if you want it to sell it, then you want it high. So I'm all for lowering taxes. This is great. If this is what's gonna do it, let's do it,
It
right?
only affects the person that's getting ready to sell their house, that somebody down the road has sold their 600 square foot house, and your comps are like, and you can't sell your house because you can't get enough money for it.
But we,
And there's
We can't-
articles
we
on
can't
here, it's
regulate
actually
it,
against the
regulate it.
laws to put a minimum on square footage. You can get away with 600 square feet, but
How
more
come
than that,
the-
it'd be challenged. It can be challenged.
How come the International Building Code puts a number on it then?
So-
Because those
Law.
people probably don't have to live.
So the
Neighborhoods.
International Building Code doesn't set a minimum house size. What they do is they have determined that 70 square feet is required for any livable area. So a bedroom would have to be at least 70 square feet, or a living room would have to be at least 70 square feet. And a kitchen would have, and for the
Yeah, there's a
kitchen, they
chart. Yeah,
changed
there's
to
a
50
chart.
square feet. And then for bathrooms, they have, your shower has to be this far away from your toilet, and whatever. So they don't set a minimum house size, what they set is room requirements and,
Yeah, and I've added all those up, and there's a far cry from, it's getting up there closer to 1,000 when you start adding up all those rooms.
It-
required.
it is if you want a regular house, but if you were doing one of these mini houses that has the bedroom right in the living room, and
Still, those are like 400 to 600 square feet. So,
generally
yeah,
speaking, yes.
yeah.
But
So,
when I added up the absolute very minimum you would have to have, I estimated it about 250. That's why I say about 250, because it's up in the air. I mean, it's not an easy number to come to.
So why I like this particular statement is if that code ever changes, it changes that,
Changes everything.
where if we set something, that's it. It makes it, very strict. This opens it up a little bit, gives people options, so.
Well,
So
I'll
do
make
we
a
need a motion?
Yeah.
If you're
Recommend it?
ready.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve proposed ordinance 2018-14, amending Voodoo, chapters 16, 17, 24, and various subsections found within for the changing needs of the town, and 22.
you add 22 too?
Yeah,
Adding 22 as well.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Well, let's vote. Dina?
I'm gonna say yes, but I ain't gonna listen to all the complaints that are gonna come after that. That's gonna be
Sean?
on y'all.
Yes.
Cameron, yes.
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 Yes. All right, I do think that we should do some research and ensure, I'm pretty sure that we do already require it being affixed to a permanent foundation. I think we need to ensure that that is there, to be sure on that, but I think we already have that
I think I
requirement.
read it in there that it did,
On the mobile home, or,
Any
Yeah.
kind of structure.
whatever it was.
I think-
Somewhere I read it.
I think it is, I think we just we should take the time to
Make sure it
verify,
is.
because I would not like to see that happen. I don't know that that's what the town would like to see, or myself. All right, what does that bring us to?
9,
sign.
sign ordinance.
Sign ordinance, so we're gonna start discussing the sign ordinance.
Oh my goodness. I hate having to go back.
Discussion of chapter 26, the sign ordinance. All right,
In mine, it's the third one over on the top row.
it has
The
lots of
review
comments on
draft.
it.
Not the one with all the comments. The one with the comments,
It's gazillion pages long.
yeah. The one that says review draft,
Oh,
April.
there we go.
So are we doing the,
It's the third one, not the one with all the comments.
Yeah.
Yep, that one.
Okay, so, just a quick overview of what has happened with this. I took the other document that we had that has all the comments and all the things, and removed all the stuff that was suggested to be removed. For the public's, information, there was a Supreme Court ruling that basically said we cannot regulate content in a sign. So with that perspective, I went through here, and anything that related to that particularly regulating content was removed, at least language that would do that. So, so this is what we have left. This is the stuff that was addressed in 26, but a lot of it was either shortened or to the most important stuff, or a lot of it was taken out because it would not meet that standard of not regulating content. So anyways, if we wanna just go through this just really quickly, so you can take a look at what's happened. The intent and purpose was just shortened down to, of course, talk about the character of the community and protect scenic views, and recognize that signs are critical to the success of local businesses and to ensure public safety, especially along busy SR9. But then we're allowed to regulate the time, place, and manner under which signs are permitted, but not the expression of free speech. And so I wanted to make sure we put that in there. And then there's, except for things that can be prohibited. And then I listed the court case there. So profanity, nudity, things like that can be prohibited. And that's where we've listed that.
So I got a question, since it was brought up tonight and I hadn't even thought about it. Do we have something in our ordinances that address signage that's not necessarily signage, like what Bob was talking about, where he's wanting to put a structure that advertises his facility? Is that covered in this, or are we doing it somewhere else?
So I think what's allowed, and as we go down through here and you'll see what's allowed, we'll address that. Because here's the problem. Our other sign ordinance would make those buildings that he has out there signs. And then he's violating sign ordinance because those are attracting people. So even the definition of sign was made those into signs. So anything could be a sign if it's directing traffic or attention towards something commercial.
Right.
And not even commercial, it could be just directing or attention towards something. So with that, we've got to make sure that whatever we're regulating doesn't regulate the content. So a lot of art should be, we can't regulate that because of what it looks like or what is on the sign itself.
I just hadn't
So
considered
if
that
you,
stuff.
if you,
The floppy men and the air balloons and stuff that people use to advertise, how do you fit that in? That's what I was.
So the table itself, the tables I've built, those will give us the latitude to be able to regulate those. So what I've done is I've created some tables down below. There's minimum standards in here. And then there's business use standards. There's residential and rural residential sign standards. And then we get into, of course, legal and non-legal non-conforming. And then the table itself, we'll break it into, there's actually two tables. The first one is the different zones and what we want to allow in the different zones. What size, height, and we can set those for each zone, okay?
So why didn't you?
Said it not there yet.
cause he's waiting for your input.
Need some input. That's why some of the public, is nice to have input. But then we also have sign type. We can regulate sign type. We can't regulate, you can't say political signs. That might be a type, but it's a type that is, you'd have to read it to know that it was a political sign. So you can't say political sign and then regulate that, okay? So we can regulate temporary signs, monument signs, flags, building mounted signs, event signs, billboards. You see where I'm going with that, where it's not regulating the content of that, where our last one even regulated nameplates on your house, okay? So, in most subdivisions, there are little signs out at the front of the subdivision. Those were all illegal because we're regulating content, just the name of a subdivision. So this eliminates that and puts it in a simple table. Yes, I will need some help with filling in the numbers here, and that's where I'm at. If we can finish that, I think we'll have a good idea of what to do with this.
Teenage golfer won't figure that out.
Well, I'm gonna go to some businesses, cause they are the ones who deal mostly with those signs, and we're gonna talk about it. But I wanted to bring up, business use standards. It's 26.3. Monica, thank you for trying to follow me. I've kind of forgot that you're trying to follow me, okay?
It's what?
26.3.
26.3.
That mine finally died.
Battery toasted out, huh?
Okay,
I've got
so
a charger.
I have under business use sign standards, allowed signs. It says business use signs are allowed in each respective zone according to the sign table in this ordinance. Okay, so that's why that table would be important. You'll go to commercial zone and then you'll have you'll have the heights, maximum size.
I don't have a shot.
Oh, that's okay.
Just
Right
go
there,
down just
stay
a little bit.
Just barely down to the next, keep going down. Right there, okay.
There you are.
No, 2, 3.
Yep, 26.3, it's right there.
There we
Okay,
go.
Yep, that's it. Nope, now you're back up to 2.
so,
They're 2 different pages. Go back. You're on 26. Take your pick.
Go down to the next page. There it is. Business signs,
okay,
use
and then
standard.
just under that, so we talk about the site plan if it's required. I've eliminated the need for a sign permit, which, Monica and Misty are going to thank me for later. Signs are part of business, that you need to be able to attract attention. So I put in a sentence, individual businesses, separate than business centers. Individual businesses, a reasonable amount of signs for the success of a business is encouraged. So, does that allow for the art work? Absolutely, I would hope. Can we regulate it down more?
No, I was asking more, how are you gonna fit that into your graph?
Into the table.
Into your table saying it has to be within these size zones, you're gonna make it big enough to fit a Kachina? Are you gonna say it can be triangles here? I'm just joking. I'm just wondering how you were gonna fit that in, that kind of thing, cause that was a good point. I mean, I hadn't even considered, and I've watched people have the, like I say, the floppy MIMs and the air
if
balloons
it's
and all
not
that stuff, so
there,
how do you?
So,
it would be allowed.
yeah, so,
Okay,
so
this is real. Good,
what
good.
we're looking at regulating though is like the height.
Right.
Like, we'll regulate the height, the lighting, and the setbacks from the road. That's what we're looking at. So
And then duration as far as temporary signs.
maybe he'll
If they're
have to,
permanent signs, then we just put permanent on it, and it doesn't matter.
maybe he'll have to shorten his teepee. You know, maybe his teepee's too tall, or, you know, whatever. That's, did you have a comment?
I do, so if you're, it's only height, it's not the actual artwork itself.
So what we're looking at square footage and height.
Well, do you remember that bull on the restaurant at Vernon, and they made him take the balls off, excuse me? That was kind of.
Can you say that in the mic real loud?
Wait, I have to get your name.
Love it.
It was pretty distracting, and I didn't really like my granddaughter checking that out, you know? And so if you're not regulating the artwork, I was just curious what happened.
So that would fall under the so we can stop obscenities. So that would fall under the obscenities, which would be regulated in every zone. We don't allow for obscene signs. Lisa?
Thanks for letting me say, if you notice what happened in Bergen, it wasn't their sign ordinance that made that change. It was the outcry of their public, of their citizens. And so as citizens, you know, it doesn't, not everything has to be regulated by the town council or the planning and zoning. You have citizens in your town that can take a stand and say, we don't like that, get rid of it. And it happened in Bergen.
Yeah.
And how do you define obscene? Because obviously the owner of
That's what we have lawyers for.
That's right.
They love those words.
That's why I put reasonable in.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be, yeah, obscenities would be covered, and we do have that as a provision, you know, we don't allow obscene content, and obviously that's gonna be up to the discretion, and if there's an outcry, then the town may push it, and then it may end up in court, but that's just the way the world works. Andy?
On one of my buildings for the last 20 years, there's been a sign up there that says Miss Molly's House of Negotiable Affection.
Uh-oh.
So, you know, over, instead of putting something else on there. And people find it quite entertaining, and I've never found anybody really offended by it. So, you know, it refers to, but you can still and not, you know, be embarrassed.
It's not quite as prominent as the bull on top of the,
Yeah, no, that's a little
Is that right next to the Wild Ass Saloon? But it's tastefully done, I think. I mean, I like that.
all right,
You guys remember the Rectum Groceries down there?
all right.
Well, one of the issues we have about signage here is a lot of signage is considered from communities where you're driving 10 miles an hour. You know, I've got them out there at 65.
Yeah.
You know, so I've got a 3-second window, you know, and a little bitty sign just doesn't do it.
Yeah. That's why Sean, we've been trying to also get with, Chuck, who, that's his profession, is building signs, for some recommendations on what, cause they, obviously as a sign company, they've done studies to know, you know, what we can do and what would be
Well, I think you gotta go down
good
to
size.
and talk to those boys.
I stay away from that place.
So,
But anyway, yeah.
just to kind of sum a few points that I've got from the public, a lot of people are worried about billboards. Those will be regulated, but they're also regulated by the state or national scenic byways standards. So that will be listed in here, and I'll make sure that there's a little bit more information on those. But there's a website they can go to which tells everything. So basically on those scenic byways, you can't have billboards.
Yeah.
There's a few legal non-conforming ones in town. Those can stay as long as they do it. And those refer to our chapter 5 on non-conforming uses. So the minimum standards basically cover engineering, they cover height, and the height, signs may not exceed the maximum building height established by town ordinance. So you can't have a flag that's up there 100 feet. You can't have those balloons on a string up there 100 feet. So we know we can regulate that. That seems pretty reasonable. Unless there's exceptions that we haven't considered in here, but at least that being our maximum height. Now, some of the other signs we might bring down.
14 feet, 12, 14 feet. And then on the main building, there's a flagpole on that that's probably 8 or 10 on top of that, you know, on the 2 towers. Then we run the American flags on those 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other flags out there, I always keep.
Anything over 25 feet? See, that's why I'm like, that would be the max. And then some of the other signs, we can regulate the height.
Well, you know, to try to keep a flag over 25 feet, you kind of wind when you talk.
Wind never blows here.
Especially at your place.
My place, it does. In his place, it might.
Yeah, and then also, it'll be different for every zone. You can see on the board. Residential zones obviously will have different requirements, much smaller.
If we condense all these zones, that sure would be helpful for this table, so. That's another story, okay? Lighting was the one thing that I was hoping to get a little bit more feedback on. I'm referring everything back to chapter 4, where the lighting ordinance stuff is, as far as lighting, but we'll have it on the table as well, whether it's, you can internally light that sign or externally light it. And then everything else will be addressed in the lighting ordinance, as far as downlighting and all kinds of stuff.
Alan?
I was gonna say, there's been a lot of people who are opposed to interior lighting on signs, and I'll tell you, it just makes it so much easier to see for me.
So Springdale actually approached me about the
They got
lighting
rid of
of their signs, and they had one sign that was very bright, and they were trying to figure out how they could rewrite their sign ordinance so it would, and lighting ordinance, so they could basically eliminate that sign. And I said, you don't need to eliminate it, you need to change the color temperature and just allow for a color temperature that isn't so bright. Like the cars that have the really bright, almost purple LEDs, yeah, those are terrible. The halogen lights are even worse. So if you regulate it down to a temperature of 3,500, which is candlelight, that's about what these are.
These might be a little brighter.
These are probably a little brighter than that. These are probably 4,000, but then it's like, it's not glaring at you. It's not, you can handle that.
Well,
And then
especially-
once they did that, they changed the sign up there, and the owners of the business were happy and the town was happy. And it didn't pull your attention over there, but you could still read it at night.
Well, it's kind of like the kick station was down Hurricane there when it first opened. Nobody else in town needed lights. You could light the whole valley. But
Yeah, so the lighting ordinance will address this, and that's another one that we'll work on once we
Well, and I
get
think
to it.
Chuck could give us some real good ideas too on
Mhm.
that.
But to completely eliminate it, I don't think is
Well,
what we're looking at. Now, the moving signs, the ones with the lettering that's moving all the time, we can regulate that, but we have to do it by sign type, not by what the content is going to be on that. So,
We talk about, changing that color section. To
so
just say,
color,
we're
I
gonna
have.
remove that other that
Yeah.
top portion, right?
That was the next part. Okay, so just before that, I have materials. I don't care really what materials they use, as long as they're safe along the roadway. And we just encourage that, we encourage the longevity of permanent sign materials. Color, I addressed as for permanent sign, brilliant, luminescent, day glow, or fluorescent colors are discouraged. Sign colors should complement those of the building facade and surrounding area.
I thought we discussed just changing that to say, for permanent signs, colors should complement the building facade, not even suggest those things in there.
That's, I wanted to ask, should we,
I know we we discussed that last meeting.
right, should I just have that's why I have it in parentheses on that. Do we want to just do the part that's in parentheses, or,
I think we should.
okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah, and not even mention
We
the
would
day
Right,
glow
just
and all
take
that.
definitely want to keep those colors that complement, we want it to look nice.
Okay. All right, and
Lighting.
then-
I think one of the good things about lighting is if we allow the lighting, as long as as long as we do keep it within the lighting ordinance, so it's not super bright. I think with lighting, you can actually allow your signs to be a little bit smaller. They wouldn't have to be as big if you allow lighting on them,
Mhm.
because that makes them more visible. So I agree that we need to keep some lighting on the signs.
We had talked, because they'd been talking about a service station, and we had talked about doing a monument sign, and he was asking about whether to internally light it or to do the downlighting and stuff, so we weren't contaminating the night sky, but my feelings, I would just as soon see a nice internally lit sign as opposed to having all the signs or the lights up top of the deal shining down, and you can light them, like you say, low enough that you can see it, but it's not glaring at you.
Right.
I'm just
Right.
trying to think of how many gas stations I've seen that don't have an internally lit sign. How would you know if they're open? I mean, it's that
Well,
advertisement.
you got
You know
your,
what I mean?
you got the lights on the building and stuff like that, but
I guess
Yeah,
that's a way to
that,
go.
that's a standard for their
Industry.
industry, so we wanna have options available for businesses, but this isn't only about businesses as well, we've got other issues. So we gotta address them all at one time. General sign locations was another thing that we had to address. If you're gonna put on private property, you have to have authorization of that owner of the property. If you're gonna put it on public property, you have to have authorization of the town. It's very simple, so that would include all different types of signs, temporary or permanent, of course.
okay, if I'm gonna put a sign on, private property, do I have to get written permission from him and file it with the city?
It doesn't
Doesn't
say
that
that.
here.
No, just
I
as
know it
long as you have
doesn't say that.
permission.
Do we want that?
I don't think you would.
Okay.
We
Then
know
I'm
what
not-
Lisa wants.
Then I'm not gonna write it in
I
there.
mean, I just, the least amount of paperwork and stuff you can get by
Yeah.
with, yes.
There's not anything really with the town until you get down to, is the town allowed to remove signs that have been worn or abandoned? And those have to be verified as abandoned, and then the town could have the authority to come in and remove that. So,
Well, and obviously the town would know if they'd have permission. Where's your,
26.5, I've bounced around all over, you're on the definitions. So below the table is a whole bunch of definitions, these are the only ones that actually made any sense that we should keep. And most of these, they won't be in this ordinance, they'll get pushed to chapter 1. And we'll just have the definition over in chapter 1 where all the rest of the definitions are. So, keep it simple. I wanna change the billboard or signboard definition, it's too long, there's some other better definitions. So,
can't we just use the definition from the scenic byways?
that's what I'm going to do. This one, somebody tried to regulate the signs within the definition, and that's one of my pet peeves. Unified community business sign, that's also a perfect example of legislation by definition. They tried to legislate what the sign, how it is and where it is, and in the definition itself. So, I'll probably end up removing that one. That's the very last one. Even with the,
As long as you keep the same space, it's just like, we changed our menu, okay? Last year it said steak, pizza, barbecue. Okay, well, if you're not serving steak and pizza, you need a different sign. And so, but it's the same area that we're gonna be putting, homemade, home cooking or something like that. So, that's not an issue when it comes to signs.
No,
Change the content of what you're saying.
no.
we can't regulate
As
that
long as
anyways.
it's not obscene.
But-
And find somebody that can cook them, is that me?
All right.
So I'm
Any-
hoping this opens it up for businesses to be able to advertise to people screaming down the road here, pulling them off the highway.
Okay, now about the banner temporary sign situation. So you're running a special, you have the end of season sale, you're having a grand opening sale, this kind of thing. I think the previous, said no banners at all. So it's like, okay, how do you let those 5 million people know that you've got something?
So yeah, in the, later on the table, it addresses temporary signs. And they will have their own size requirement and then how long they can be, we're gonna define temporary.
You
Sick-
can't be going out of business all summer.
Yeah, you can't be going out of business for 2 years.
Well, see, we haven't run it over 8 months, but, so every time we got it, it's, temporary.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've always had a, end of season sale and, specialty stuff and, things like that. And so now there's no sign of that. So that's kind of silly. And then the flags, the foreigners love the flags. They come from another piece of the world and they know Americans are crazy, they're a bunch of bastards and we should declare war on everybody. They see their own flag and they feel pretty damn good. So, the flags were a good one. And also, just people in town, they got a kid in out serving a mission in some country, it's kind of nice to put that kid's flag, in honor and stuff. So some of these restrictions on stuff, I think is not too good idea.
Yeah, and that's a portion in here that's also covered as flags. And hopefully we can come up with a reasonable amount that's still good for businesses, but doesn't turn the whole city into a flag park or something.
Well,
But
I generally have five on one side, 6 on the other. And my biggest complaint is my flag ain't up there. And so I rotate them, and say, well, you're next in line, but people, and you see them out there, 25 Italians all under one flag,
taking their picture.
And boy, you put the German flag upside down and you'll know it by next morning. So, but they just love those damn flags, Now, I had an issue with flag theft a couple of years ago, real bad. I put the flags on somebody's going by stealing them. And, at $10, $15 a flag, that's expensive. So, I don't know if it's against some kind of flag regulations. But now, when I put them up, I go down and I get that flag bait and put on them. So, Shelly, I thought if they steal a flag, I'll find it out front, But, I don't know if that's against the law to put stink bait on a flag or not. Use them for stealing.
Smart. Okay.
Anything else you want to go over? So we still need to fill out the table, move the
So, yeah, I'll
definitions
just
to
need
chapter
some help
1.
on the tables. If you guys have ideas and wanna just fill in the table with what your recommendations are, get those back to me. Let's do that. I'm gonna talk with, some business owners. I'll be talking with Chuck. Try to have this wrapped up in a couple of weeks. If you have other comments on the rest of it, if I'm missing something, or if I've added something you don't like, make your comments on it. Let's get that done. We'll be meeting next week, so you can pass those on to me by then. That would be great.
Yeah, so your goal, I'm guessing your goal is to have this finished up, the draft up, finished up, so it can be posted for next.
Yeah.
And then everyone will see how many flags, or everyone will see the number of flags, everyone will know the size of the signs that are allowed, everyone will know where they're allowed in the setbacks and all that stuff that's in the table that we don't have yet. Setbacks, illumination, maximum height, maximum square footage. That's on that. Instead of saying maximum size in feet, maximum square footage might be. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, it just
All
kind
right.
of thrown me in.
Anything else? Alan? Gene? Anything else? All right. Did you get what you needed from us on that, Sean?
Thank
Except
you.
for our inputs on the size and number?
Yeah, fill those in, even if you just print it out, fill it in, pencil and give it to me. That would be awesome. And then I'll compile that and we'll go from there.
All right.
Write it in pencil and you can change it wherever you need.
There you go, perfect. This does meet the, not regulating content at this point,
This
so.
one you've got. Okay.
think it does.
And it's not 24 pages, I'm sorry.
Work on that a bit.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move on, unless you had anything. Tina, did you have something?
I was just, we were talking about square footage on the house. Do we have a, maximum height?
We do, 25 feet,
Okay.
yes. There is a maximum height.
I've read all this stuff, but it just all goes together, but yeah.
And the residential code has a or a minimum height too, for ceilings and stuff, so, yeah.
Do we, are there any provisions in there for any exceptions to that 25-foot?
I think the only place there's provisions for an exception is in the highway resort zone, in areas that are lower than the highway. The city council can allow for higher buildings in those
25
areas.
foot above the highway.
I think that's generally what I think it's at their discretion, but they're allowed to allow,
So if I want to build a 3-story house, I gotta go one of them in the ground.
yeah.
So that's the only resort, or the only zone that has exception allowance.
Maybe the commercial too, but I'm not sure on that, but I know it's in the highway resort zone that they've, because most of that area is low compared to the road, they've said, well, we will give you on a case-by-case basis an exemption.
I know over here at Stewart's, and I don't know what his elevation is above the highway, but I know when he got his trusses, and that's one thing that really held them up a long time, is the trusses they built were 4 foot over the height ordinance,
4 foot or 4 inches?
4 foot.
Oh, 4 foot?
And rather than put them up, he told him no, he wasn't going back for a change. He made them take them back and build the right ones.
Yeah.
So that held him up a couple of 3 months, actually,
Yeah.
waiting for those to come in.
And I know there's a provision in there for low areas like that. All right, we'll move on. Commissioner comments. Alan, do you have anything?
Nope.
Jean, Dina, Sean. The only thing I know of that will be coming up, just so we're ready for it, next planning and zoning. There is a proposed rezone, gonna be a proposed rezone unless they change their mind, for, Law over here. He wants to move to, oh, he's here, commercial, and with that, we'll need to make some changes to the commercial zone to extend that so that his property would fall into that zone.
What's
When
it currently?
rural residential, when council looked at that last month, they were amenable to the changes, so we'll just have to look at that.
Well, we've got it on the other side of the highway, but we don't have it on his side of the highway.
No, not that far.
Not that
Currently,
far.
it goes from Kevin's.
700.
700.
Goes from 700
That
out,
way.
yeah.
And then
But it
highway
don't come
resort
back
zone
this way.
goes this way, and right in the middle, for some reason, there's absolutely nothing allowed along the highway.
Which is
for
crazy
commercial.
because we have businesses in there.
Yes,
Yeah, he's
there's-
right next to a,
I
he's right
know.
next to a commercial place now, so
I
we'll
know
just need to look at extending that commercial a little bit so that his
his piece. of
his
land.
piece would fit into that zone.
I can't see any reason there'd be a problem with that.
And the city council discussed it, they said that they were amenable to those changes and we should proceed with that, so. Just so you know for next month. The only reason we didn't do it this month is because
couldn't get it on
couldn't get it on the agenda fast enough there was no time between city council and planning and zoning to make any, with our posting requirements, just wasn't the time to fit that in this time. Alright, and that's all I have. Do I have a
Adjourn
motion?
the public meeting.
Alright,
I
Second.
move to adjourn.
we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
the.
Aye.
Aye.
Good. Because if you voted nay, you were outvoted.
Oh, let's stay here for.
And
I know there's a lot of stuff we could do.
Weeks. Meet some of those people.
Okay, this is next, 16. Next City Hall tomorrow, get my map straightened out.
That's all we need, is color pencil. I hate this thing, there's too many buttons.
Change it, this week.
I think she just laughed, but I was hoping for the first. All right, that was way too much fun. I called you last night, but I called you last night, but hoping that I could get an answer, but I didn't know. I just didn't make it over. I figured out I'm gonna be busy to get that. It was just after 8. Yeah, oh well. Because I was getting connected busy. Come up as, I don't I'm worried about that. Like, I don't want people to leave this for me, and I don't want people to see me. So, that's just, yeah, so that's why I'm like, you know,